Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, blessedly, January 17th, 2020. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. It's Casual Friday, folks. I am wearing a soft-collared shirt. Joining us on the program today, Heather Parton, or Digby, from the blog Hullabaloo, the redesigned Hullabaloo. Also on the program today, I believe, just to express the inner anger and frustration that at the very least I feel, Judy Gold will be with us. Meanwhile, Lev Parnas says that Donald Trump's lawyer, John Dowd, told him to take one for the team. Impeachment and vulnerable Republican senators can't keep up with the gusher of new evidence. Meanwhile, Florida Supreme Court imposes a poll tax on former convicts. Bernie Sanders catches Biden and passes him by a hair among registered voters nationally. The Pentagon reveals that actually 11 troops were injured in last week's Iranian missile attacks. Expert testimony given in a federal court contends that the Georgia election server was breached before the 2016 and 2018 elections. Meanwhile, the Russian government resigns en masse to let Pooty-Poot rewrite the Constitution in convenient ways. Matt Gaetz accused of designing a point system game of sleeping with State House staffers. And a massive review of single-payer cost estimates show that Medicare for All saves. And as Virginia preps for a militia assault on Monday, Democratic Socialist delegate Lee Carter has to head to a safe house over a right-wing conspiracy theory and massive death threats. All this and more on today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. You know, having been a longtime student of right-wing talk radio broadly speaking, but of, they're vacuuming early today. That's fantastic. Of right-wing talk radio, I know that if you listen to Rush and Limbaugh, strategically, and what they tell you, you know, when you talk to radio consultants, they always say, you got to make it sound like there's a couple of things you got to do. You got to, one of the things they always tell you is like, we've got to hurry through this to get to this other stuff because it creates a sense of anticipation, which I think I do naturally because we always do got to hurry through stuff because we don't have enough time now these days with the news. You know, we do 2.5 hours. When old Matt, and I want to say thank you again to Matt Binder for filling in yesterday. When old Matt, and I was talking to him, I was like, hey, do you want to fill in and do the fun half? He's like, yeah. How much time are you doing on the show these days? And I'm like, well, I think it's the same. How much time did we do when you were here? And he's like, we would end at 1:30. And I was like, what? Really? Geez, no wonder why I'm so exhausted. We go to 2:30 now every day. And
go beyond that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try and keep it within 2:30. But we never end before 2:30. I mean, maybe it happens once in a blue moon.
There's a range.
Originally, the idea was we're going to, I think it turned out I was going to offer 45 minutes of a free show and then another 45 minutes of a fun half. And that's reasonable. And someday we will go back to that. Anyways, my point is that they tell you to rush through the thing. And the other thing that Rush Limbaugh does is he says, that was the fastest week in media. Because the idea is that he's trying to make the news digestible to you. And that has some relevance in another story that we're going to talk about later, actually, that came from that dovetails with an essay that Chris Hayes wrote 15 years ago. But all that aside, the point is that this has been an exhausting week. It felt like I was ready for Friday sometime around, I think, Tuesday at 10 a.m.
TMBS tomorrow at 5:30. So
tomorrow, Saturday at 5:30?
Indeed.
Good Lord.
Oh, really? Oh, so Michael must be back, in other words. Oh,
Backish.
Well, backish, yes. Well, whatever. He should really actually tell me about that because we could have had something else scheduled. But maybe we will. Anyways, so this has been a very long week, obviously a tremendous amount of news. And buckle up, folks. It only gets worse from here. Or better, depending on how much you love to hear the sound of our voices here. Next week, the impeachment trial will begin not on Tuesday. On Tuesday? I thought it was going to be on Thursday. But I guess it's going to be on Tuesday. And then the following week, in addition to having the impeachment trial, we will have the Iowa caucuses on Monday. We will be doing coverage. We haven't quite figured this out yet, exactly how this is going to happen. I have a feeling I'm just going to bring a cot in here and just somehow
Let's hang a hammock from the rafter
and somehow maybe go home and help the kids to school and then come back down here. On Monday, we have the Iowa caucuses. On Tuesday, we have the State of the Union. On Friday, we have a debate that is taking place, the Democratic debate. That's on February 7th. Now, we're now 2 weeks out now. So all that will be happening. We have the impeachment and this and that. And so that's it's sheer insanity around here. And I want to thank all of you for being with us and supporting the program. We have announced we're now live on Twitter. And I think we'll probably do that for a while like this. But of course, our revenue is primarily made in terms of video. We're on Twitch, we're on Twitter, we're on everything that starts with a TW that we're aware of. We're also on YouTube. YouTube is the only place that we get any revenue from the video, but we're trying to expand the reach of the show just for the sake of expanding the reach of the show. And on YouTube, we've been getting a little bit demonetized as of late. It's unclear why. Sometimes these happens. But that's why I want to just say I appreciate all of you who have joined the show, become members, supported it. We give you, we deliver you the audio on, cut of commercials, and you get the extra content every day, and it's all on demand. But at the end of the day, your support by becoming members is how we do the show. And we don't spend a huge amount in trying to configure all sorts of bonuses. We try and do it as it comes up. But at the end of the day, when you become a member at jointhemajority.report.com, what you're basically doing is you're supporting our ability to do all this. And we are doubling down on the AM Quickie. You will notice over the coming weeks that we're upgrading all sorts of different elements of it. We're getting it out earlier in the morning. We're tweaking it editorially a little bit. Make it a little more fun, just a little bit, not too much. But it's a great way to keep up with the stories that with all this information that's coming out. It's a great way to just keep up so that you don't feel like you don't know what's happening out there. We'll talk about that Hayes piece a little bit, but one of the elements of it that's interesting is the idea of like there are people who like politics, who are interested in it in the same way that people are interested in other hobbies per se. And then there are other people who don't like politics, but still realize that they should vote and they should choose somebody for president. And that's going to come up and be salient later. So Rachel Maddow had this 2-part interview with Lev Parnas. And the first was Wednesday night. The second one was Thursday night. I did not see all of this live yet. I've only watched clips at this point of Thursday night because my daughter had a music recital. She did great. But after the first night, one of the things that struck me was, why is he doing this? It was unclear. And then was also curious as to if John Dowd still represented him. I think maybe we talked about this on air yesterday. I can't quite remember. But there were stories that John Dowd, who was the president's attorney, was going to get into a joint defense agreement with Parnas via Rudy Giuliani, with also Igor Fruman, who was Parnas's, I don't know, like, Sancho Panza. And what it did is by binding them all together, they started to have attorney-client privilege amongst that would cross over a couple of different places. And this was relevant because Paul Manafort had the same deal with Donald Trump via John Dowd, made a deal with prosecutors, and then later prosecutors realized that what he was doing was just getting information. He was taking one for the team, and he was just getting information as to what the prosecutors knew and relating it back to the president's defense team. And so I was a little suspicious about Parnas because it said he was represented by this guy Bondi, but there was no stories about resolving his relationship with John Dowd. And that was the big thing that came out of one of the big things that came out of last night. Apparently, Parnas fired John Dowd. Now, I guess it's conceivable that that's not true and they're still working together. I don't know, but that would be highly unlikely. When John Dowd and the president got into a defense agreement with Parnas, they accepted the premise that Parnas and Giuliani and via Parnas, that they had a unique relationship with each other that had to be protected. In other words, Parnas was working more or less for the president or at the president's direction. That's going to have big implications if any of the old rules of the way that this stuff works is operable anymore, which it may not be. But here is Lev Parnas. And the only thing I could think about when he was talking about this was that scene where when Robert Duvall, as the consigliere to, The Godfather, I can't remember his name in the movie, goes and meets with what's-his-face, the bald guy, in the prison and tells him, what the Romans used to do. Take one for the team. And that's what apparently Parnas got that talk. Doesn't seem as dramatic, but.
Mr. Dowd was your attorney for a time, and then you changed attorneys.
I fired him in jail.
You fired him when you were in jail?
Yes.
What happened there?
And Mr. Downing. Basically, when we were arrested, obviously I had nowhere else to call. I didn't know. We just retained Dowd and Downing. So I called Downing to come there. And
pause it for 1 second. Now, look, it's very possible that what Parnas is doing here is trying to get some type of immunity because there's stuff that he did that was even worse than what he's copping to. Okay? And so you've got to be very, very careful. I don't think he's telling any lies per se. I think he's omitting some things. Although some of these things could also be lies. So you have to be very careful, right? But like just even that moment where he says like, I called and then he stopped at what he was saying and he said, he didn't know, when he got arrested, he called somebody. And maybe it was Giuliani and maybe it wasn't, but somehow he got in touch with the president's attorneys. Now, I don't know why he doesn't want to reveal that or whatnot, but remember, the whole thing about Parton here is that he thinks that he's being set up by the Justice Department to be the fall guy for the President of the United States. And, you know, we've heard all these things about the Southern District of New York is so independent. They practically call it a separate agency from the Justice Department. You know, there's a little bit of a question here. You know, we don't know who to believe, but there's some truth to this stuff. All right, so just go back. Go ahead.
When we were arrested, obviously I had nowhere else to call. I didn't know. We just retained Dowd and Downing. So I called Downing to come there. And I started seeing in the process of the bail stuff, the way things were going on, that they were more concentrating on, I didn't feel that they were trying to get me out. And at that point, I had a meeting with John Dowd and Downing inside the jail. And John Dowd just, instead of comforting me and, you know, trying to calm me down, telling me like it's going to be okay, like don't worry, basically start talking to me like a drill sergeant and telling me, giving me orders, like, you know, like be a good boy, like, you know.
He said be a good boy?
No, like I don't want to quote him exactly on what he used in that, because it was a while ago and I don't remember exactly, but it was his condescending attitude towards basically like, who do you think you are, you know, telling the president or Giuliani or anybody to like come out. And because one of the things I said, I can't believe nobody's coming out in our defense and saying like we didn't do like wrong, we're good citizens, that, you know, we work. And basically word for word, and then I said, if you don't get out of here right now, something bad's going to happen, because I don't want to see the two of you. And at that point, Downing hit the emergency button, and the security took me out and took them out.
So this is a very heated confrontation. You told Downing and Dowd to get out.
I threw them out.
Were they telling you to sacrifice yourself in order to protect the president?
That's what I felt.
Is the implication of this story of the lawyers that you feel that people loyal to the president and close to the president were trying to influence your defense and your case in a way that was against your interests but in the president's interests?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess the idea is that the reason why he's coming to the media is because he's not sure, you know, if there are prosecutors that he can trust. And I certainly have no idea. And it's hard. Let's put it this way. If you're the president of the United States, or you're Giuliani, or you're Dowd, or you're any of these people, it is hard to imagine what value you would get out of having Parnas come out now. Like, you know, like it's hard to figure out what the angle would be. It's not like there is a huge hunger in Congress to find something more, right? Not broadly speaking, at least. And if he is covering up for something much, much, much bigger, which I don't think it is. Like that's the only possible way. Like there's just no far-flung theory that you could come up with to suggest that this guy is doing this for some, like, you know, QAnon reason. I think the guy actually is just doing this because he thinks it gives him the maximum leverage. And against what he doesn't think that, you know, he thinks he's going to be the fall guy for this, and he's trying not to be. What you can believe of his tale, I don't know. But what it's doing is it's creating pressure on members of the House to go forward with something, bring him in, testify, get a deposition, whatever it is. And as that becomes more intriguing and involve more intrigue, it puts more pressure on those Republican members of the Senate that I have been arguing for, ad nauseum, is what impeachment is about, really, in terms of the material benefit that we're going to get from it. It may hurt Donald Trump down the road, may not. I doubt it. Maybe it does. It upsets him. It certainly keeps them busy. It keeps the Senate. This is going to be the longest break, I would imagine, that the Senate has taken from shoving right-wing justices into the courts. And so if it's like 5 less justices that are, judges, I should say, that are in the federal courts, that's enough. Dayenu, as we say at Passover. But what it's also going to do is hurt these senators. And when I say these senators, go Google the least popular senators in the country. And, 4 out of 6 of those are on that list. 5. Joni Ernst, Susan Collins, Martha McSally. She's finally done it.
Should give yourself the bugle.
Yeah,
horns.
I know. Where the thing's broken. We got to get a new iPad. Martha McSally, Tom Tillis, he's crept up a little bit. And Cory Gardner, they're all apoplectic right now. And it only gets worse for them. And I got news for you. They're hoping that voters are going to forget these votes. Whoever's running against them, the voters are not going to forget these votes, because people are going to pour a lot of money into ads that are going to remind them about these votes. That's the bottom line. So like I say, folks, a tremendous amount of news out there. One of today's sponsors is News Voice. It's the first entirely open, crowdsourced, and democratized platform for news. You can download the app for free at newsvoice.com/majority. Look, we have a situation where we have intense media consolidation. Hard to keep up if you don't do this professionally to know the biases that exist in certain types of media. Corporate bias, right-wing bias, even, left-wing bias or perspective, completely biased towards facts. But that's just my own editorial there. But News Voice helps you keep track of this. It's a free crowdsourced website and mobile app. It lets you create your personalized news feed, maintain a clear picture of where your news is coming from, what political slants may exist. This, if you want to learn to be a critical reader of the media, this is the way you do it. Over time, you start to see certain assumptions that are baked into stories. And you do that by comparing them from different perspectives. News Voice is fueled by its community of users. They contribute to the platform by fact-checking, submitting stories and sources that are missing, upvoting stories, and writing story summaries. You can also comment on stories and debate politics with other members of the community. And through staying active in the community, you can level up, you earn perks on the platform. The News Voice Play feature lets you listen to your personal news feed every day. They have customizable audio news playlists, and it's your own personally tailored radio station for news. News Voice is a next-generation news aggregator and social media platform that values transparency, good journalism, and productive political discussions. Get totally free access by going to newsvoice.com/majority. Put a link underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube. Check it out, folks. Also, I am super excited about the weekend because it means that I get to sort of unplug for a little bit. The way I'm doing it these days is through Skillshare, which is sponsoring the program today. Anybody who goes to skl.sh/majority report5 is going to get 2 entire months of totally free access to Skillshare's entire library, and they have thousands of online classes. It's an online learning community for everybody from creatives to freelance business owners to entrepreneurs to people who just want to get better at their hobby or learn a new skill or learn a new hobby or whatever. Skillshare's classes range from illustration, painting, graphic design, photography, video editing, web design, bookkeeping, marketing, productivity, everything in between. Skillshare's video lessons let you learn at your own pace and you can fit in any schedule. They have classes for all skill levels. Whether you're already a master of what you do or whether you're just beginning, it doesn't matter. I told you guys, like I took Lucid Dreaming 101. I'm going to go review that. Now, the beauty of it is, like, it has lessons, like, I don't know. I can't remember how many Lucid Dreaming. It was like 8 or 9. But they're chapters. So you can listen to a little bit and break it up. But I've got the weekend to myself this weekend. I'm going to review the whole thing, 1 through 10, or whatever it was, 1 through 8. Get my lucid dreaming going. And then the other thing, as I was looking around, I'm going to create a digital calendar. I don't even know what that means, but like I need to get organized. People don't understand. I've got so much information flowing at me constantly. Logistics, that's all my life is logistics. So if I can find it's either going to be that or the Evernote thing. Learn how to use Evernote, because I think that also could help us in the office, but whatever. All right. The point is each class is under 60 minutes. They're split up into convenient individual lessons, like I say, and you don't have to pay per class. Once you get a membership to Skillshare, you can go through every single class on their platform. I mean, it would take you probably a year, but if you did it constantly, there's thousands, and you'll never run out of ways to fuel your curiosity or to satiate your desire for knowledge. You can make 2020 where it is a year where you explore new skills, deepen existing passions, get lost in creativity. I learned how to take good shots on my iPhone class there. I didn't want to go. You can go deep into the photography classes too, but I want to know how to do it on my iPhone. That's it. Best part is a membership is less than $10 a month, but the Majority Report audience can enjoy 2 entire months of free membership to Skillshare, and you get full access to all their classes. They know you're going to love it. So when you check it out, you're still going to have 2 months you can see it. You can watch as many classes you want to. skl.sh/Majority Report 5, the number 5. We put a link in the podcast notes or under the video if you're watching on YouTube. Check it out. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Digby about all of it. See you there. We are back. Sam Cedar, the Majority Report. Ladies and gentlemen, on some casual Fridays, I just want to kick back and listen to some good tunes like this one.
Are you ready for some Digby? Yeah. Are you ready for some Digby? Digby, 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 yeah. And a bit of hullabaloo, a bit of hullabaloo should do ya. How about some hullabaloo? Just rub it on ya. It's so good for ya.
All right. Heather, Parton, Digby, I have decided that when my son, who's now 6, when he gets bar mitzvahed, we're getting a band, and I'm going to have them cover that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, I really do. If it wasn't about me, I'd still love it.
I honestly, I can't help but picture like a lot of people my age and older dancing at like a wedding or a bar mitzvah to that song.
That's right.
So, Heather, let's see. What could we talk about this week?
I don't know.
let's just start with what there was a debate this week. There was basically the breach of the non-aggression pact between the left candidates in the Democratic primary. We got to touch on it a little bit. I don't want to go too deep into it because, you made a great point when we were talking on Ring of Fire Radio this week that like there's 10 other stories and you can list them. But your take on this, I mean, and I think I've made it clear to people that I think there's a multiple of scenarios. I don't care too deeply about any of them. My assessment was that this was there was an attempt by the Team Warren, I think, to prove that she was strong enough to overcome what I think they may assume is a concern among, and I think this was geared towards Biden and Buttigieg supporters who have her rated second and may be choosing Biden and Buttigieg first because they're afraid that a woman can't win in this environment or that she's not enough of a fighter. And I think she was trying to prove to those people that that's what I think that's what this was about. I thought it was ill-conceived if that was the case. If it was just sloppiness, then it was sloppiness, which is problematic. But, to the extent that we have any feedback in terms of polls, it doesn't seem to have helped much. But what's your take on this?
Well, I mean, I have no idea what exactly happened. I don't think anybody does, but I'll be honest with you. I mean, these, primaries at this stage almost always get, just a little bit ugly. It's the nature of the beast. They're tired. They're working 24/7. Staff gets out in front. The candidates themselves get testy. I mean, we've seen this before. We saw it in 2004 when John Kerry put out an ad that morphed Howard Dean into Osama bin Laden. I mean, we all remember 2008. I mean, that just went on and on and on. So, this is not unusual. I don't think it was particularly, rude compared to some of the other stuff that we've seen in primaries. So I'm not particularly concerned. I think this will blow over. But I have to say that, and I'm going to criticize the media a little bit. I get why why partisans, why Warren people and Bernie people would be up in arms. If you're heavily invested in a candidate and this kind of thing happens, you get really upset, when things go this way. And I get that. It's always like that. But the media decided that they were going to put that at the top. I mean, they, last week it was, Meghan and Harry, and this week it was this handshake as being equivalent to the cavalcade of stories that are absolutely, overwhelmingly more important. For instance, Australia has burned up. It's burned up, and it's burned up because of climate change, and it's burned up because of horrible political leadership that basically put the needs of the coal industry in Australia above everything else. And they have this guy who he was, fairly recently elected, the prime minister there, who, he believes in the rapture for one thing. He's a super, extremist religious, zealot, who is also in the pocket of the coal industry. And, I don't remember, the American media really just kind of, whatever. It is not. That was a dead canary in the Australian coal mine for the rest of the world, and we basically sort of ignored it. I mean, we had the Russian government just resigned this week. All of them, because Vladimir Putin is consolidating his power and may, name himself president for life. That's important. It's something that really we should be looking at. And we had, we were almost on the brink of war last week. I mean, clearly, we weren't just almost. We were on the brink of war last week with Iran. That story has not gone away. Everything that happened in the lead up to it, and in fact, yesterday they just revealed that there were 11 injuries in that at one of the bases. These guys all got concussions, and they don't know if they're going to be okay. That's a big problem. And the lies that led up to that haven't been fully unraveled. So I guess what I'm just saying is, I get it. I understand why people care about this. I care about it too. It's not that I don't care, but honestly, it's not. We are living in this whirlwind important, vitally important news around the world and in this country. And by the way, I didn't even mention what's going on the border. They're now transporting people from the border down to the center of Mexico and leaving them there. That's the latest ploy that they're using down there to keep people from trying to come over the border. That is exactly what they did during the Operation Wetback operation back in the 1950s. People die when you do that. You take them away and drop them someplace that they don't have any idea. I mean, it's cruel. And Donald Trump, by the way, talked about that on the campaign trail. So I'm sure he and Stephen Miller got a big kick out of this new latest one, which they're doing in concert with the Mexican government. I mean, this whole thing is just awful. And so, I realize that we're in the middle of a primary campaign and it's very important, and we have to we're going to fight through that over the next few months. But to me, it's just it's down the list of about at about 20 of things that I'm actually caring about at the moment. I think Warren and Sanders will work it out. I really do.
Did you even mention the impeachment, and not just the impeachment, but then this whole new sort of like massive dump, which of information, which could range from implicating Pence and Barr in not only in the Ukrainian sort of escapades, but to believe Lev Parnas, Bill Barr is running basically a criminal enterprise out of the Department of Justice. And the potential, if we want to be skeptical about what Parnas is doing, the potential that maybe they were contemplating some type of hit on or physical attack or making it seem like she was under some type of imminent physical harm of a U.S. ambassador. I mean, this, it's nuts.
Well,
or if you want to just do a sidelight, you could talk about hey, folks, guess who's defending the president? It's the same team who defended Epstein in his case down in Florida. Dershowitz and Ken Starr getting the band back together to represent the latest freak. I mean, but all right, but that's let's. I mean, we'll get to all these stories maybe. I don't know over the course of the next 10, 15 years. But let's talk about impeachment and then I guess talk about what's happening with Parnas. I mean, the impeachment stuff is in retrospect, the timing, it starts to become clear what Nancy Pelosi was doing in terms of the timing anyways.
Yeah, I think you and I actually predicted this several months ago when we were talking about this, what's the theory behind this? And it had to do with squeezing these vulnerable Republican senators, as you said earlier. And they're coming up against, potential primary challenges or having to defend a vote that, and by the way, I mean, what this shows, her timing in this, leaving this interregnum between the impeachment hearing and the vote for articles of impeachment, and now actually delivering the articles, is that all these things have happened in the interim. There were FOIA requests that finally made it that showed that that basically the White House knew they were breaking the law. And by the way, the GAO just, released a report yesterday saying that they had, in fact, broken the law when they withheld the money from Ukraine. But all these other things, I mean, and I've been saying from the beginning, with this Parnas-Giuliani thing was always going to be, that story was just barely bubbling up to the surface when they voted for impeachment. And since then, these Ukrainian shoes have been dropping one by one by one, and it's really starting to pile up, including, of course, this big bombshell with Parnas. So what these Republican senators are faced with is, if I vote, against the president, am I going to get a primary challenger? Or if I vote for him, which they probably will. But, you know, if I vote for him, what is going to be happening between now and then that's going to call into question my judgment on that,
Right.
especially if they refuse to call witnesses. And they're going to be accused of being part of the cover-up. And so this has always been the squeeze, and it's an important one, too. I mean, Mitch McConnell, it's just as important to get rid of him as it is to get rid of Donald Trump, maybe more. I mean, I shouldn't say that because Trump is obviously insane, but, you know, McConnell is right up there and is his top henchman. And, you know, he's what they call the gravedigger of democracy. And so it's vitally important that Democrats take back the Senate as well. And it's doable. This is one of those cycles where they've got a lot of people up, and they are in those purple states, and you know, they're between a rock and a hard place, as you pointed out. Many of them are the most unpopular senators in the country. So this is important to do that. So I give Pelosi, and I have to assume that Schumer was, you know, involved in this strategy as well, that I give them some credit for doing it the way that they did. You know, you and I had our differences and all along the way, but in this one respect, I have to give them some credit. So, you know, here we are now, you know, on the eve of the trial with all this new information spilling out. And, you know, as you point out, I mean, I don't know what to believe about Parnas. He's obviously a shady character. He's been involved in all kinds of stuff that is questionable. And so, you know, you have to be very skeptical about what he says. But as all the prosecutors have been saying on TV, guys like, you know, former Justice Department officials and whatever, they go, hey, you know, when you're making a case, you often have to, you know, use testimony from criminals, because they're the ones who know what the other criminals are doing.
Right.
So, you know, this is just the way that works. The way you do it, though, is you corroborate what they're saying. And in Parnas's case, he's got a lot of receipts. I mean, you know, you look at these text messages and you look at the documents that he's provided, all the pictures, everything like that. You know, Trump says he's never met him, or, you know, he's only taken pictures with him, doesn't know the guy. It's obvious to any sentient person that he did know the guy, and that there was, you know, I mean, there's videotape of him, there's all this other stuff, and, you know, that alone is new information that's vitally important to this impeachment case.
Well, we don't even need to, like, it doesn't even matter if they knew each other. We know that Donald Trump signed off on his defense attorney getting into a joint defense agreement with him. And it's like, you don't do that for random people, right? Like, it's not like John Dowd is coming to Donald Trump and saying, hey, there's a guy, he got busted for low-level drug offense in Iowa. My grandmother and his grandmother, they were good friends at a pinochle. They used to get together for pinochle. Would you mind getting into a joint defense agreement with this guy? Oh, yeah, well, as long as, you know, your grandma says it's okay. Like, that doesn't happen, right? Like, you don't get into a joint defense agreement with someone you don't know. I mean, it's just absurd. And people have to remember, he's been in custody, or at least all these documents that he has have been in custody for 3 months now. You know, he got picked up in October. Well, it was definitely before Halloween, because I went as Parnas on Halloween. So it must have been, you know, mid to late October. So, you know, it's not like he's sort of like reverse engineering the story now. Since he got out of that defense agreement with Dowd. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine a scenario, and I undoubtedly this guy's not telling the whole truth to Rachel Maddow. Why would he? He's under no obligation to tell her anything that's truthful. But if he's lying, he's certainly not doing it at the behest of, you know, Trump and other people, right? Because this doesn't help Trump at all. And it's not like it's I don't know how, you know, and my first thinking is something like this is some type of rat F, right? Like the story that Karl Rove supposedly planted, the story of George Bush's going AWOL and doing it to hide the fact that he had actually gone AWOL by putting it with a bad messenger. Like, maybe there's some of that going on here, but this is not, it just doesn't make any sense.
I don't think that is happening. And if, we've got the phone call, the perfect phone call. I mean, it's pretty clear that Trump was, we know that much. If nothing else, we know that he personally extorted the Ukrainian president, and what we now know, aside from that phone call, is all the machinations that were going on behind the scenes in this plot. And it went on for much longer than we realized. It included a lot more people than we realized. I mean, bringing in this stuff with Victoria Tenzing and Joe DeGeneva, I mean, we knew they were involved somehow. And this is where Parnas is valuable. It's not so much that, I think he's, a great guy and he just wants to, save the republic or anything, but he's provided certain details about all these stories that we've seen swirling around about this Russian, Ukrainian oligarch Dmitry Firtash and the quid pro quo with the prosecutor Lutsenko.
I want to walk through these because this is important stuff that I think people have ignored. The Firtash. Firtash is a Ukrainian oligarch that people think is mobbed up. He has been. There's ties
to the Kremlin.
There is an attempt to extradite him. He's in Vienna now or something, and there's been a long-standing attempt to extradite him. The U.S. government has been trying to get this guy back into the United States. I can't remember exactly for what charge.
Racketeering.
For racketeering. And apparently, Firtash had the ability to get investigations of Burisma and Biden or to lean on the Ukrainian government or whatnot. He was going to deliver something to Parnas if Parnas, through Bill Barr, could get them to drop the extradition efforts, right? Is that what the quid pro quo was in that instance? This is a separate quid pro quo.
Yeah, only folks. it was Rudy that he was going to get that
Rudy.
from.
Okay,
and Rudy, Rudy, Victoria Tenzing, and Joe DeGeneva, who had been involved in this plot from the very beginning. By the way, they were involved back in the spring, working with John Solomon, that right-wing reporter that was
at the Hill, right? That every story you hear quoted is either a Jonathan Solomon story. Every story, every time you hear something quoted by the Republicans, it's either a Jonathan Solomon story or one story that is been slightly warped by Ken Vogel in Politico. Put up a picture of Tenzing and Joe G. These folks, up until now, have been more or less sort of like freaks that you would see on Fox News or or even like WorldNet Daily types. That and I want people to just put this up on the screen so that people remember what these guys look like because they've seen them, right? And these are guys that you look on television and you're like, this is a lunatic. But these were full-on operatives in this, like they are full-on players in this stuff. It's crazy.
They've been right-wing operatives for a long time. I wrote a big story about them for Salon that going back into, they made their bones during the Clinton impeachment. So it all kind of comes full circle here. And they became big DC celebrities, this legal eagle couple and all that stuff. But they're just right-wing operatives. Basically, they do this kind of dirty work all the time. And you'll recall that both Tenzing and DeGeneva were interviewed by the president to be his personal lawyer when Dowd and Downing dropped out. And they ended up, and we all thought it was going to happen. And then in a couple of days that they dropped out, and the word was that he didn't like the way they looked, which may be true. He does that. But
to be fair, the
reality is
they dress like he's modeling his entire look after a Heart to Heart episode or like a Robert Conrad. I'm dating myself here, but they're of that age. But yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly what he does. The turtlenecks, the whole thing.
Yep.
He's definitely, he thinks he's Mr. Smooth. And he and Victoria are both known for being cigar smokers together. So, you get the picture.
Yep.
Anyway, Trump didn't like that. But it's also obvious now, looking in retrospect, that everyone decided, including Rudy, who is friends with DeGeneva and Tenzing, obviously, they're part of the same cabal, that they would be more useful doing this dirty backdoor kind of stuff that they were doing in Ukraine. So they decided, they would be more helpful on the outside. That's even what they said at the time. So clearly they were recruited in this plot. And of course, Firtash is very, very wealthy. And according to Parnas, he was paying Tenzing and Dijonova $1 million plus $100,000 a month in expenses. Nice work if you can get it, huh?
Yeah.
So, and where the money's coming for all this work that they're doing, that's a big question. We still wonder who's financing all this stuff. And it appears that Firtash was financing at least some of it, because Parnas got $200,000 a month from this guy. So that's another part of this that's yet to unravel, is the money that's financing all of Trump's legal expenses and his, these dirty operations that he's doing elsewhere. And, I have no reason to believe that Ukraine's the only one, right? I mean, who knows what else he's really doing?
Well, that's the thing, is that this is a lot of work for this one operation. Like the idea that this is all they did. This, I mean, yeah, okay. They did this whole thing but they don't do anything, that's, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and for Joe Biden, I mean, what is this? What is? I mean, I honestly think a lot of this really was Trump trying. As much as he wanted to get Joe Biden, the other half of this story was just as important to him, which was trying to show that the Russians and he were framed in the 2016 election, and it was really Ukraine that was interfering in the election. He's obsessive, and he's been upset about the idea that he didn't legitimately win the election, and who knows what other motivations he might have in all that. But he did seem obsessed about that, and has from the very beginning. So all of that seems to, he has focused on it. But these people, this kind of thing, you put together an operation like this, it just seems so, what? But on the other hand, I don't know, I was talking to somebody the other day, he said, well, Trump isn't a real president. He doesn't do real presidential stuff. So,
right.
Yeah, he's got time on his hands. This is what he spends his time doing, is trying to look out for his own political, well-being, and he spends all his time doing this sort of thing. Nixon did a lot of that too, but he also was, actually the president at the same time. In any case, this whole thing, that Firtash quid pro quo, what's interesting about it is the fact that Parnas says, and he didn't offer any evidence of this, but it does track with certain other pieces of evidence that we've seen, that Bill Barr was, as he put it, on the team. And when you think about it, this right-wing legal cabal, which we're very familiar with, we know who these people are. This, Pat Cipollone, Bill Barr, George Terwilliger. I mean, all these names, and the Federalist Society, and operatives like Dijonova and Tenzing. This little right-wing group of lawyers in D.C., they all know each other. Rudy Giuliani, I'm sure he's part of that too, even though he wasn't really a D.C. player, although I guess in recent years he's become a super, lobbyist for foreign, tyrants. But Parnas suggests that, Barr was in on this. And
right.
When you think about it, he'd almost have to be if they were going to deliver to Firtash what he wanted, which is
right.
lifting of the extradition order. I mean, who else could manage that? Other than the president, who could try to get Barr to do it, and Barr himself. So, you're looking at a situation where you go back and look at what Trump said in that in the perfect phone call. He said you can talk to Giuliani or Attorney General Barr, and that starts to look a little different under these circumstances, right? I mean, it starts to look like that's another of the quid pro quos that was having to be delivered. So that one is very, very interesting, and it dovetails with what Parnas was saying about his own fear of the U.S. Justice Department in this whole thing, and that Trump has consolidated power in the Republican Party and in the government, largely because of his naming of Bill Barr as Attorney General. That's where the muscle is coming from. And when you think about it, that's true, right? I mean, Bill Barr is now his Roy Cohn protecting him.
He was looking for
does,
one, and he found it.
Yeah, and he found it.
All right.
So that's quid pro quo one, and then there's another one too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much here, and we will tease that out over the coming days. I mean, there's two things I want to just touch on before we wrap this up. One is, what do you think is going to happen with all this information in terms of whether it's going to actually make it? Is it just going to run? Are we just going to hear this story parallel to the impeachment? A, and B, I want to talk about, I think, what is a huge failure by, you mentioned giving credit to Chuck Schumer. I have no idea how much Chuck Schumer was even read into any of what Nancy Pelosi was doing. I think he was just like, look, as long as I don't have to come out and I'm going to vote against the new NAFTA because that might maybe put Elizabeth Warren in a tough jam or something like that. I mean, who knows why he did that? Maybe he's just afraid of getting challenged in the primary. But Chuck Schumer, if I was Chuck Schumer right now, what I would do is take 5 minutes from the statements and the press statements I'm putting out about, what I've done for, consumer advocacy on, now you can have a different type of rolling suitcase on your air flights or whatever it is that he's working on this week. And use some of that camera time that I'm constantly seeking, and talk about how Mitch McConnell is trying to hide this process from the U.S. public. They're allowing like one camera in there. They aren't allowing reporters to come out and file during the hearings. I mean, this is talk about low hanging fruit. Chuck Schumer's getting all clever with all these different procedural votes. Why not do the biggest procedural one of all, which is, hey, this has got to be transparent. The American public deserves to see this. And not only is there value in that politically, it seems to me, there's also, there's a material benefit at the end of that, which is you want all of these things that are going on to resonate for months and months. And if people don't see it, there's no way for the news to cover it.
That's absolutely true. And the last part is really what's important. I mean, the news cannot cover this if they're not there and they're not able to sort of, give feedback to the country. I mean, look, it's going to be dull on a certain level. I mean, when you're on a jury, for instance, I mean, I've done it a few times. You're there's nothing else going on, right? You're just sitting there, you're looking at the evidence, you're very highly focused on it. And even then, it's kind of hard to keep your concentration. If this is just one single static camera and a bunch of people droning on, and maybe, you don't even hear most of it, it's a real missed opportunity. Because I remember in the Clinton trial, and that one went on, by the way, for something like 6 or 7 weeks. I was riveted to it, but I'm not sure how many people actually watched the whole thing. But it was, for the most part, I think, people had sort of knew already because of the Starr report what the actual case was.
Right.
I don't think that's true this time.
Yep.
I think this time it's really important how they present this case, and briefly getting back to Parnas. One of the things that that the House managers and their lawyers, I'm sure, are pulling all-nighters is trying to put together a timeline where they can fold in this evidence that Parnas has given in the documents, if not his testimony. And I don't know if they're going to interview him or not, but if they have all these documents, and if they put those in there with what they know from the FOIA requests and from their own evidence and testimony during the hearings, they got to work pretty hard to get all that stuff together. But that kind of a timeline, laying out a case the way that you would in an opening argument in a trial, in a normal trial, that's exceedingly important, and they have to find a way to engage the public on that as much as, because that's what this is really about, right? We know that Republicans, they're all, they're whores. They're not going to, there's no way that they're going to get 13 Republicans to cross, maybe
Right.
a few to cross to get witnesses or to vote against him or something. But this is not, the outcome is already determined. So this is all about trying to present this to the public. And I agree with you. I do not know exactly how all this is going to come out. The one thing that I do think is it probably important to remember is that we thought that some of the people who might be House managers, people like Jamie Raskin, who's very good at sort of, sorting out and who know the case backwards and forwards, they're not on the team. So they will be working with the media, I assume, to explain and try and, they'll have these panels with Claire McCaskill and God knows who else,
Right.
But hopefully they will have some of these people sitting there who know the case and who can, help explain it to the public, because they're not going to be involved in the trial itself. So, that's my one, I'm kind of clinging to that, hoping that there will be at least some
But why?
ability of...
But why do I barely know this? Why did what I just say come as a surprise to 90% of the people who heard my voice? Why do we not have the Democrats, every Democrat,
You're right.
why are they not saying, what is Mitch McConnell doing? The point is to have this in the Senate, not in the cloakroom. This is...
Right. Cover up, cover up, cover up.
Yes,
that should
exactly.
be the mantra, right?
Exactly. It's annoying. I mean, it's not. It's worse than annoying. It's more political malpractice. It's
Yeah.
just like I'm sorry.
I agree.
The whole point of this exercise is there's two aspects of this. There's you hold him to account because you want to at least pay some homage to the idea of accountability, and they failed on that accord, as far as I'm concerned, by not including a whole host of other articles of impeachment in this. Even if it was it would be too hard to explain these other things. You know what? Put them in there just so that history knows that you've done that, right? I mean, you don't want to defend those? Fine. Just put them in there, and so that history knows that we have created some accountability. You kidnap children. You try and ban Muslims. I mean, a whole array of different things. Emoluments.
Corruption. You're putting
corruption.
money in your own pocket. Your kids are crooks. I mean, it's all there.
Then the other half of it is completely political. And, some of those benefits are very distinct and tangible. We want to have a Democratic Senate. We're going to make them take hard votes. But some of it is also stuff like, you're building a narrative and you don't know when that's going to pay off. But part of it is Mitch McConnell is running this like it's a secret Death Star, Star Chamber, and instead of actually, the chamber of the Senate. And there's one person situated who can make this case more than anything else, and he doesn't. I don't know what the political cost is to him, and that's Chuck Schumer, and he should be out there right now talking about why is Mitch McConnell keeping the American public out of this? Are they afraid?
You're right.
It's just
and the narrative is clear. What are they hiding? Why are they covering up? Why can't we have witnesses? Where's Mulvaney? Where's Pompeo? I mean, this is the easiest thing in the world. And in fact, in a lot of ways, I think Pelosi did set Schumer up for this with, all these, shoes dropping over the course of the last few weeks, as to say, look at all this information. They won't let us, they won't give it to us. What are they hiding? And that's the narrative. And they could take that all the way into November. This was a massive cover-up by the Republicans.
Yeah. In the meantime, Chuck Schumer's probably got to work on some bike lanes out in Long Island or something. The leader of the Senate,
he's
Democrats.
got important things to do. Kitchen table issues.
Exactly.
What can I say?
The Baileys told me not to say anything. They were really upset about these bike lanes. Digby, thanks so much for your time today. As always, a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. God, this is incompetence. Be the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, or let somebody else do it. And this is just like have a press conference, which, Chuck Schumer, it's like, You could remove 90% of his brain mass, and the one thing he would know how to do is to walk up in front of a microphone, based upon his entire career. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Judy Gold is going to get more angry than I am. That's why we have her. Be right back. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned earlier when we had Digby on that it is my hope to based upon Digby's theme song, I'm going to insist that my son have a band at his bar mitzvah, and they play that Digby theme song. And also, the second song that I'm going to follow that at his bar mitzvah is, of course, this one. Level-headed.
Fuck you!
Calm, cool, and collected.
I have a bigger penis than him.
Judy Gold is on the line to keep us all connected.
What the fuck is the matter with him?
A steady hand to guide us. She'll keep us calm and carry on.
No fucking way!
Too bad Jimmy Reefer Cuck didn't find her worthy of a song. Well, Judy Gold.
And he's such a fucking penis head liar. I'm not kidding. That's the president of the United States. That's the president. What the fuck? Like this guy.
Okay. Yeah. Judy.
Wait, is that before or after the Haftorah that you're gonna play?
No, of course at the reception. I'm not gonna. Although.
Oh yeah, you don't want to. Yeah. I can sit. Well, you should do it in Hebrew.
We should do a Yiddish version of that.
Yeah.
Now, Judy, I have to say that it sounds like you are in some type of internment facility. Where are you calling from?
I am. Is it bad reception?
No, the reception's good. It's just there's a timbre. There's a timbre to your voice, or a lack of timbre.
Oh yes. Well, don't worry, that's going away right now. But we're in Florida.
Oh.
Because we're visiting. We're at Mar-a-Lago, and I'm so excited. No, we're in Florida. I have 2 gigs. I have a gig tonight in Aventura, and I have a gig, two shows tomorrow night in Boca Raton. And they all fucking love that piece of shit here. What the fuck is going on?
Judy, I just had this vision of you like camped out in front of Mar-a-Lago, like doing like a protest on the side of Route
Let's
1
do
or
it.
whatever it is with a sign yelling at the cars that come by. Is that what would it take? What kind of
that's fine.
GoFundMe do we need to get going to have that happen?
How many calories on my Fitbit do you think I'll have if I do that? If I do a protest in front of?
I think you go on a hunger strike in front of Mar-a-Lago.
I'm not fucking going on a hunger strike for that fat piece of shit. Are you fucking kidding me? Fuck him. Can I just say something?
Of course.
Before we begin.
Yeah. I feel like we
Like,
have.
how much more? How fucking much? Ken Starr? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you seriously?
Do you want to hear something really, really disturbing? You don't have too much time. I know this. How long is this?
Right.
This is 2 minutes long. All right. So Ken Starr is going to be joining the defense team with Alan Dershowitz. The last time these two crazy guys teamed up, it was in Florida.
Epstein.
It was in Florida to defend Jeffrey Epstein, the mass serial sex trafficker. And then, but before, in the interim, between Ken Starr was president at Baylor University. This is back in the like 2015 or so, and he's a woman who was raped at Baylor. Emailed Ken Starr with the subject line, "I was raped at Baylor," sent it to his direct email. She emailed a bunch of other people. And so Ken Starr was asked about it on Channel 10 News. I don't know where this is, where the news is. But here, we've played this clip in the past, but you got to listen to this. It's insane.
It's this email sent from a rape victim to a number of people with the subject line, "I was raped at Baylor," that's been part of the debate during the sexual assault investigation. The victim, whose identity was concealed, appeared on ESPN's Outside the Lines on Wednesday. She sent the email in the fall of 2015 about a rape that happened in 2009. A few hours after that interview aired, we met with Starr at the president's home on the Baylor campus. One of our questions was about that email. What about the victim that came forward saying that she had personally sent you an email and Art Briles an email saying in the subject line that she was raped at Baylor? Did you ever see that email?
I honestly may have. I'm not denying that I saw it.
But it's what happens moments later that brings the interview to a halt. What you can't see during this interview is my news director behind me. You also can't see a woman named Mary Spate, who asked my boss to promise not to use that portion of the interview. When he says no, she interrupts our interview.
Well, I want to point out, I need to talk to Jen Starr, to Starr.
Okay.
I need to talk to you, sir.
Okay. You ask great questions.
Okay, great. Can I ask you one more question?
I have got to talk to you.
Okay.
Spate was introduced to our crew as a longtime family friend. What we've since learned is she has a long resume in crisis management. She's a communications specialist, owns her own firm, and was once a director of media relations at the White House for President Reagan. She also coached Starr while he gave testimony to impeach Bill Clinton. After a few minutes away, the two returned.
She needs to ask you that question again. Whether you do it on camera or not, it's up to you. I just want to make sure it doesn't end up misedited.
Okay. We ask Starr again, and he answers, but turns to Spate apparently for coaching.
All I'm going to say is I honestly have no recollection of that.
Of seeing any email?
Is that okay?
Don't look at me, look at her.
Then Starr answers again.
I honestly have no recollection of seeing such an email, and I believe that I would remember seeing such an email. The president of the university gets lots of emails. I don't even see a lot of the emails that come into the office of the president. I have no recollection of it. None.
While Starr calls for transparency and openness, it appears his message is still being tightly controlled.
Can you believe this?
I can't. Fuck him. First of all, I don't know Lev Parnas. I don't even know who he is. I have no idea. I've never met him. I take pictures with a lot of people. I take a lot of photos. You know, I'm president. You know, I meet people. I take photos with them. I fucking sexually assault them. You know, I don't remember.
You know, that's also exactly what Devin Nunes says about Parnas. It's almost identical, these things.
They're just, I mean, but here's the thing. You can't, there's such a, how can you fucking defend these motherfucking lying pieces of shit? How can you defend them? How can these Republicans stand there when they know? Come on. All right, Lev Parnas might be a fucking scumbag, but Trump is a bigger scumbag. You know, it's like, and everyone in his fucking cabinet is in the fucking, well, not in his cabinet, but you know, all these people that were part of his campaign are in the fucking jail.
It's,
he doesn't have a cabinet.
It really is like, you know, I mean, if Parnas is telling the truth of some of what he's saying, I mean, and I think it's, you know, you know, Trump gets them all involved. Nobody's going to be here unless you're part of the team. You know, it's just like it's all just Serpico. It's just like, you know, it's that crew. It's
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The fact that person coaching Ken Cunt Starr is a woman is even fucking worse. You know, what do these women hate themselves? Fuck. And Susan Collins, let me tell you something. She better fucking do the right thing.
What? No, she's not. Come on. Come on, Judy.
I know, she won't.
Seriously?
She won't. I love Sarah Gideon. She's running against her. Go donate $5 to Sarah Gideon. Anything. She's fucking great. She's my neighbor's cousin, but she's really great.
The Collins, all these Republicans now, I mean, they have been on this ship for too long. There's no turning back.
Right.
There's no, they need to be thrown overboard. All of these people who are around him. I mean, they got this book that's come out now where, you know, Trump is like apparently like yelling at the generals, you're all dopes and babies and whatnot. And everybody just stood around watching him do this. Like, you know, they probably are. But the bottom line is like, they're all implicated. And the worst thing I think we can do at this point is to sort of say like, well, we're going to allow some of the good ones to, you know, they're not doing it. It's not happening. There's no value to these people. There's certainly, nobody's going to be this cowardly and then step out of the line and become some type of leader of the country. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Well, and plus it's also like, look, that orange fucking piece of shit sits there with the same fucking talking point. It's a hoax. Everyone knows it's a hoax. It's like, come on, get some new material. You need some new writers. It's all fun. And you think, come on, Lev Parnas is, all right, he's a scumbag, but he's not I mean, why wouldn't you know who I think they should get for Trump's team?
Who?
I think he's doing a fantastic job. Lev Parnas' lawyer. He's very well spoken.
He didn't say a word. That guy Bondi?
Not a fucking thing. Not a fucking thing.
Well,
what the fuck? He's sitting there looking at Rachel. Then he's, you know, just nothing.
I mean, better that he's not saying anything. Let Lev Parnas speak.
I really don't know how much more I can take of this. And is he going to get 4 more years? Is he going to get 4 more years? Is he?
He might.
No, he's not. He's not. I can't fucking deal with it. What's my heart rate? I got a new Fitbit. Okay, so
you've got to get that online. You've got to put that like somehow like embed that in your Twitter feed or your Twitter bio, whatever your heart rate is. I feel like it's like one of those webcams on like an eagle's nest or something that people could spend hours just watching.
I'm going to do a little heart with the rate on it. Listen, did you watch the signing of the articles of impeachment? The signing in of everyone?
I saw a clip of it where Pelosi, where everybody came in there and they all got the pens.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, no, not that one. The one where the senator signed the.
I didn't see that.
Oath.
No.
Oh, you didn't see the senator signing the oath. Okay. It was like a fucking hair club for men commercial. It was so bad. It's like it was the camera was on top. None of them have fucking hair. None of them, and they're all white. And too bad they didn't have fucking cameras in their penises so they can see how fucking small they are.
I feel like you're not happy with what's going on in the Senate.
Look. How much more evidence? Everyone he is in contact with or works with is in jail. They're all fucking liars. He just sits and lies. He stands there and lies. Like that fucking speech where he's walking out, with the fucking light behind him like he's Jesus Christ. Well, as long as I'm president, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Good afternoon. He's such a fucking... And they all stand behind him. It's... What the fuck? And then he lies about blaming Obama. He's such a fucking idiot. He's stupid. The fucking president should be smarter than the fucking doorman in my building. I don't even have a doorman, but the security guard guy.
Well, that dude. Well, he's pretty smart, that guy.
Yeah. The security guard guy, he's fucking sleeps the whole time. Listen, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I can't take much more. Don't you think Lev Parnas is telling the truth?
I think Lev Parnas is telling the truth about some of it anyways. I think he's probably still, Lev Parnas is trying to save his skin. So
right.
I think he's trying.
Wait, can we just say one thing
Yeah.
about Lev Parnas? Okay, he's 10 years younger than me.
What?
Yeah, he's in his 40s.
He is?
If you look like that in your 40s, would you not kill yourself?
Oh, Jesus. He's younger than me.
Yeah. I know. He's young. He has 5 kids. I want them to interview Igor, and they can have 2 cameras, one for each eye.
Wow. How old? Wow. Lev Parnas is 6 years younger than me.
47 or something?
Yeah.
46? Yeah.
Wow.
And Igor has one eye on the right and one eye going the other. Yeah. They're just fucking disgusting. And how about how Giuliani is not on the lawyer list?
Oh, you mean in the
Yeah.
impeachment?
Yeah.
Would you put him on there? I wouldn't.
No. But Sam.
Yeah.
How is this happening? How is this happening? And then the Democrats are having stupid fucking fights. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, they didn't shake hands, though. That's pretty big.
Who?
I'm joking.
Oh.
Sanders.
Wait, the funniest part was when Tom Steyer goes over and goes, hey, I just wanted to say hi. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, all right. Hi, Bernie. Yeah, good. I can't right now.
Exactly. Okay, good. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. All right, good. That's okay. Yeah, I have other things to do.
How many times do you think Tom Steyer? How many times do you think Tom Steyer has had anybody react to him that way? The billionaire comes up to you. He wants to say, I just want to say hi and shake your hand. Yeah, good. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, Tom. Listen, I don't have time for this shit.
Right. Bernie Sanders
it was so funny.
Bernie Sanders is probably like the only person that Tom Steyer has come in contact with in a decade that isn't excited at the prospect that maybe he'll give him some money.
Right. I know. It was so like miserable Jewish. Like, I can't right now with your bullshit. This is why Jews have a hard time keeping home healthy. Exactly.
Tom Steyer is going to sign up and say,
hi, can I get you? Can I get you? Get away from me. Can I wipe your ass? I can't right now.
All right. Listen, I know you got to take a phone call at 1:30. Just quickly, though, tell me about who you're doing shows for in Boca and down in Florida.
Okay, well, I hope I'm not doing shows for people who love you-know-who.
Right.
But tonight I'm in Aventura at the Aventura Cultural Arts whatever center.
Is that
And
is that a
then tomorrow
town,
night-
Aventura?
What?
Is that a place? I don't know what that is, Aventura. Is that a city?
Aventura. It's in Florida. It's like North Miami.
Okay. All right. Of course. Yeah.
It's in North Miami. It's called Aventura.
Right.
Okay, then I'm in Boca.
Right, Boca.
I can't right now. And I have at the Boca Black Box Saturday. I have 2 shows. My album drops today. It's called Conduct Unbecoming.
Oh, I wish my soundboard worked. It doesn't work right. Oh, wait. There we go. I got 3% on it now. That's great.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. And, I'm overweight, but I'm going to lose a little weight. And I can't take it anymore. I can't, fucking Lindsey fucking Grant, I can't. They're just fucking assholes. Like, I just want to go up to these people and say, what is wrong? Look at these fucking stuff. He doesn't even know what Pearl Harbor is, you fucking idiot.
Well, if you do that, certainly videotape it.
Oh, I will.
Judy, have...
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you have to go, or you don't have to go? It's 1:27.
Sam, I can't. Oh, good. What?
Well, I don't want to make sure. I know you told me you had 1:30. You need to make a phone call. It's 1:27.
All right, but they're going to call me at 1:30.
Okay.
Look.
All right, good.
And what do you want from me? Good. All right, good. Yeah, good.
Well, I mean, I'm
say that to everything now.
Just Boca is like, there's going to be a lot of I'm curious as to the audience you get in Boca. Is it because I associate Boca Raton with like grandmas and
right.
I had driven down there from Connecticut down to Boca Raton when I was in college because I wanted to not pay for any place. Stayed with my buddy's grandma in some gated, like retirement community type of thing. And we went out to Tequila Willie's there. Is Tequila Willie's still in that parking lot or wherever it was?
Okay, Sam, I'm 57 years old. I don't fucking care about Tequila Willie's, okay?
Well, but they have shooters. They have waitresses coming by with holsters and shooters, and they take it out and they just pour you a little Tequila Willie.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, good, yeah. Listen,
but who comes to the shows? Like, are there young people there?
I'm telling you right now, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, a lot of gays have moved down here. There's a big, huge gay population. You think we're young now, Sam. You're like, oh, we're at the age, and the snowbirds, they're coming down. And Sam, I don't know if you realize you're fucking old. You're not like going to Tequila Willie's anymore.
No, that's all I'm thinking about. I hear Boca and I'm like Tequila Willie's.
Here's the thing.
Still around.
You know how when we were younger and you were like, you'd meet someone's grandparents and you'd be like, oh my God, they're so cool and hip and blah, blah, blah. And then you'd meet other people's grandparents and they lived in Florida and they went to dinner at 5,
Right.
Our generation is now splitting in 2. Like, we're at the age where it's 55 and older, Sam. 55 and older.
I'm not there yet.
The retirement.
Close.
You're very close.
I know. I have a 6-year-old child, for God's sakes.
When's the bar mitzvah?
Not for 7 years.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. I'm screwed.
I was like, boy, that went fast.
Not quite.
All right. What about a bat mitzvah?
That already happened. Mila had her bat mitzvah.
And how was it?
It was good. It was good. We didn't think to play your theme song there.
Well, how many people were there?
Wasn't huge. I had Aerosmith
right.
play.
Did she?
And so we cut back on the
Did she read out of the Torah?
Did she? Oh, yeah, of course.
Were you proud?
Yeah, moderately.
What? Did you cry?
Yeah, of course I did. You know I did.
All right. I know. It's so, like, you can't believe it.
I can't believe it. It's been 2 times where I've basically been brought to tears. One was her bat mitzvah, and one time when I was on a mountain, we were snowboarding together, and I was waiting for her to come down. I was just about to go down like one of those really steep, sort of like double blue diamond trails or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for her, and I was like, going to tell her, okay, now look down the hill and, get a notion of how you're going to go down. And she just went right by me, and I realized, like, oh, my God, she's better at this than me.
And she doesn't need you.
No, I mean, by far didn't need me, but was better at something that I taught her to do. And that I found.
So it was a competitive thing.
No, it wasn't competitive. I was
instead of
proud. I was
a-
proud. I was proud. I was proud. Like she's surpassed me.
You just said she was better than me, so I was crying. Okay? You didn't say I was proud. You said, okay, Elisa, no. Elisa's getting in on this. He's crying tears of joy because, she's a therapist. Don't be in a relationship with a therapist. I can't.
Well,
we've been listening to your show and watching your show on the phone.
Well, good. Well, she's right. I was proud.
Shut up.
It was the one moment where I was like, "Oh my God!" Like that's why you have children, right? So that they surpass you and go further than you, right? That's like why you that's how you feed your sense of immortality.
You have children so that they can take care of you and wipe the shit out of your ass and pluck your chin hairs. And, that's why you have children. That's the only reason.
I wouldn't tell your boys that.
Good. Wipe my ass. All right.
All right. Well, I'll let Mila know that. Judy Gold.
I love you.
I love
Please
you too.
do something. I can't take it anymore. I can't. Honestly. We got to do, I know the march is on Sunday, but we got to do more. We got to be fucking out there protesting. It's ridiculous that he gets away with lying on national television, the fucking media, like it's a lie. It's called a lie. It's not he was incorrect. It's a fucking lie, and he's a fucking liar. Okay, thank you.
All right. Hang in there, Judy. We should maybe double check that Fitbit. Appreciate it.
Okay, Sam, it's now, it didn't go up that much. Listen, I just want you to know, and everyone over at Majority Report, that I have so many people. I had a guy at my show the other night that was in New York from out of town, and he was from Georgia, and he came to my show because of Majority Report. So I want you to know, I love your listeners, and I love your show, and you guys rock.
Well, they love you too.
I fucking hate that piece of shit.
Hang in there, Judy. Hang in there. Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah, good. All right. Bye.
All right, bye. Judy Gold, ladies and gentlemen. Check out her new album. I didn't realize she had a new album. We'll put a link to that on our homepage. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break and head into the fun half of the program. Just a reminder, you can support this show by becoming a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you get the free show, free of commercials. And then you get the fun half. And this week, every quarter or so, we have a bonus that we put up. And if you're a member, you get the video, access to the video. We'll put the link in it one more time today, Brendan. Okay, in the Friday members post, the video of our coverage of the debate, and about halfway, 3/4 of the way through, Virgil Texas of Chapo Trap House came in, and I know we talked a little bit too much over the debate. We'll correct that next time. And then we're wrapping up, and I'm literally just like 2 lines away from saying, all right, well, that's good. Thanks, everybody. And then there's a knock at the door, and I thought we were going to get in trouble because of the nature of this building. There's some, it's not just all businesses. It's a mixed-use building. And the Chapo Trap House crew like falls in almost, I would say, right? I mean, I wouldn't say stumble. I would just sort of felt like they just poured in.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon when everyone moves through the door at once.
Right.
It's kind of
and
wafted in.
And then they basically bum rushed the set. And I think it was that bottle of whiskey that Perrine had. Anyways, that's available to you if you're a member of this program. You can watch that in all its glory. And, of course, you get the fun half, and you support the program. So join themajorityreport.com. Also, AM Quickie. If you have not subscribed for free to the AM Quickie, do so now at amquickie.com. So just take a minute, check it out. Every morning, starting at about 8 a.m., maybe a little bit earlier, but by 8 a.m., you will get 5 minutes of the day's headlines, give you a little sense of what to expect on this day. Some days you can't listen to the Majority Report, catch up. This will give you an opportunity to give you a sense of what the headlines are that day. So check it out, amquickie.com. Also, as always, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Will be a TMBS on Saturday. Is he going to play the Lula thing?
No, I don't think so. I think we have a guest in studio. I'm not entirely sure who, but it's at 5:30 tomorrow
Okay.
night.
5:30.
Check out Literary Hangover. Most recent episode is a poem called The Sotweed Factor by Ebenezer Cook, where we talk about the 17th century Chesapeake area tobacco industry.
And also, as always, patreon.com/the Intifada. The Antifada. Here, Jamie's podcast. All right, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you can imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Almost says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
I am a total cunt. Can we bring back DJ Dannerky's song, please?
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Dannerky.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break for people.
That's fucking nonsense.
Hey, folks, reminder.
I do not have Parkinson's.
And the alpha males are
psych. Fuck 'em. Almost says what? Almost says what? Hell of a lot of bank. 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 Hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
The alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black.
See Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on, fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy. I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are back. Africans are black.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy. What number is it?
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, welcome. This is the fun half, I should say. Let's see if I can find where the heck the majority report is on this. I forgot to turn on the... Now, where is the... Kyle, if you're listening, you got to put in numbers on the call thing, because I can't ever keep track of where I am in this list. The list is so long. There's like 40 people already on. Folks, one of the things that we have to be worried about is that there are a lot of disaffected Democrats out there who are speaking up, and it's a little bit alarming. I mean, we've all seen the stories like in the New York Times. I'm a liberal, but I'm against immigration. Now, granted, that turns out to be someone from an anti-immigration foundation or something like that, a think tank. But I have reason to believe that there is evidence of Democrats who are disaffected. I mean, for instance, here's this ad from the American Action Network about a Democratic representative. Her name is Abby Finkenauer, and here is a Democrat. Do we know her name? She's a Democrat.
Yeah.
And she's talking about how she's disaffected with their Iowa representative. And it starts off with this beautiful, like, little framed, I love our home.
Of her real house in Iowa.
Yeah.
Around here, we focus on what matters, like taking care of our families. But Washington gets so focused on all the wrong things, like impeachment. Abby Finkenauer said she'd be different, but then voted to impeach the president. Why not fix the opioid crisis or secure the border? There's so many issues they should be working on. It's so disappointing. I just wish that Abby Finkenauer would let us decide the elections and get to work on the issues that matter.
Now, I guess her name is Stacy. Is that right?
Stacy the Iowan.
Yeah, Stacy from Iowa. And the thing is about Stacy, as you saw her kids, and they're very cute. Stacy, she's in Iowa, but one of the things that makes it hard for people is that sometimes you lose your work and you've got to move to another place. Because then Stacy had to pull up her roots in Iowa's 3rd district and move to New Mexico's 2nd district, where she had a very similar problem with the Democratic congresswoman there.
Around here, we focus on what matters, like taking care of our families. But Washington gets so focused on all the wrong things, like impeachment. Xochitl Torres-Small said she'd be different, but then voted to impeach the president. Why not fix the opioid crisis or secure the border? There's so many issues they should be working on. It's so disappointing. I just wish that Xochitl Torres-Small would let us decide the elections and get to work on the issues that matter.
We can laugh about what has gone on with Stacy. This has been hard for her. But after she moved to New Mexico, she had to move to New Jersey because she apparently lost her opportunity there. Let's play New Jersey. Can we play New Jersey? Can we try that? Because Stacy has had to move her family. And the thing is...
Now, do you want her from New Jersey's 3rd or New Jersey's 5th?
I want her New Jersey's 3rd first, because I think she started the 3rd.
Yeah, she
then
got
moved
a
to
nice...
the 5th. But the thing about Stacy that people don't appreciate is that she is so concerned, so keyed in on her children, that she creates a completely exact same replica home where they live so they don't feel it's too disruptive. But here she is when she moved to New Jersey's 3rd district.
Around here, we...
Can we just pause on the I love this home?
Yeah, I love this home.
I love this. I'm going to move like 10 times.
All you need is the actual sign, and that's what makes
Home's where
a
the
house a
heart
home.
is.
Exactly.
Around here, we focus on what matters, like taking care of our families. But Washington gets so focused on all the wrong things, like impeachment. Andy Kim said he'd be different, but then voted to impeach the president. Why not fix the opioid crisis?
In fact, not only did Stacy have to move from Iowa's 1st district to New Mexico's 2nd district and then New Jersey's 3rd district, but subsequent to that, and the thing is, She is having a hard time finding a Democratic representative that she feels is doing their job. She then had to move to New Jersey's 5th district, to Nevada's 3rd district, to New York's 11th district, to Pennsylvania's 8th district, to Utah's 4th district, and Virginia's 2nd district, and still the same exact problem.
Around here, we focus on what matters, like taking care of our families. But Washington gets so focused on all the wrong things, like impeachment. But then voted to impeach the president. Why not fix the opioid crisis or secure the border? There's so many issues they should be working on. It's so disappointing. And get to work on the issues that matter.
Oh, boy. You know, this is why we need Bernie Sanders, because women like that are having to move across country, both to get work, to find work, and they're just...
Also, we need to make sure voter registration is a lot more seamless for people.
This is why you need. This is what you're
about.
talking about. This is the voter fraud. She's registered in almost like 35 different states. It feels like.
You got to put Kobach on her or something.
Stacy. There you have it. It's going to be interesting to see if that ad is effective. I imagine it will be, but who knows? Hold on, let me see if this is one of those Social Security calls, because if it is, we're doing it. Hello?
This is the Citibank Fraud Prevention Department. Calling for Samuel Sater.
Uh-oh, that's not good. All right, I'll have to deal with that later.
Not quite as the viral content we want.
That's a little disturbing. Let's go to the phone. Calling from a 210 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good afternoon, Sam. It's John from San Antonio.
John from San Antonio. Are you worried about those ads, John?
Not at all. No, those are very humorous, though. I want to thank you for pointing out my thread that I tweeted last Saturday morning on your Twitter feed. It concerned Bernie's lead in the latest Iowa poll from one of the most accurate pollsters around, Ann Seltzer. Since then, Bernie has had good polls in California, Nevada, and last night's Emerson College poll released in New Hampshire, which had Bernie leading Buttigieg by 5 points, which is Bernie's biggest lead in New Hampshire since early September. So there are 416 pledged delegates in California, and Bernie has a 3-point lead in both polls released this year. Warren had a lead in one of them in December. Biden had a lead in the other one in last November. So in Nevada, Bernie has a 1-point lead in a Myers Research poll, with Bernie receiving 29%, Biden 28%, and Warren trailing at a mere 11%. So Bernie has not fared very well in the Suffolk phone polls this cycle, but in this poll, Bernie is only 1 point behind Biden. One thing that will help Bernie this year is he's much stronger in urban areas where Clinton dominated in 2016. Democrats allocate delegates according to their strength, which are in urban areas. So if the polling is right and Bernie does well in urban areas, it will dramatically increase his chances of winning the nomination. So the viability of candidates, because they don't reach the 15% threshold in individual congressional districts and statewide, is one of the most relevant stories in the Democratic primary, but it's been largely ignored due to the unpredictability to gauge support in individual districts and the complexity of the subjects. Warren's average in the polls released in 2020s in Nevada is 12%. The question, will she receive any delegates in Nevada? She's also on the bubble in New Hampshire, where she's averaging 15% in polls released in the last month. In Iowa, her average is only 16%. In the latest delegate estimation from Bernie supporter and election journalist Doug Johnson-Hetlam has Warren receiving 304 pledged delegates after Super Tuesday, which is 21% of the delegates. Biden receives 43%, Bernie 34%, others 2%. So you said Warren was trying to get Biden and Buttigieg voters. It might be angling for a cabinet position.
No.
But I think
It's not angling for a cabinet position. I never said that. My theory, it's just a theory, is that what she was trying to do, because I don't think I don't think that they're silly enough to think that they can dislodge Bernie supporters, right? Like, Bernie's support is very sticky, it seems to me. I think they were trying to convince Biden voters in particular, but probably some Buttigieg voters too, who have Warren as a second choice, but are afraid that she can't win or that she's not strong enough. And so they're going to go with Biden because a lot of Biden's support is about his ability to win. And I think she was trying to show that she is tough enough to go up against Donald Trump. And I think that was the play. I don't think it was going to be, I don't think it's successful. I don't think they executed it well. I think that, the theory I think might be good, but that's just a guess on my part. But I know it's not angling for a cabinet position. I don't think she's trying to appeal to Biden or Buttigieg. I think she's trying to appeal to would-be Warren voters who are supporting those two candidates.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's a pretty good assessment. But I mean, here's what I think. I think that if she's able to actually, receive the amount of delegates that she's projected to, she could be the ultimate kingmaker. She could simply ask her delegates to switch to Biden, and in return, she will be picked as the vice president. So I brought up this scenario earlier last year with Bernie, and I thought she would always be aligned with Bernie, and that this would be the scenario that would take Bernie to the nomination, or possibly when Warren was ahead by so much in October that possibly it could go the other way. So I just think she's making a political calculation that Biden will win and actually help, this will help her cause.
But why do you think, how does that help, what she did help Biden?
Well, I mean, if she's going to get 21% of the delegates.
No, but why do you think, what
winner.
has changed that makes you think that she, A, thinks that Biden's going to win, and B, that, what makes you think that she wants to be vice president in Joe Biden's cabinet?
Well, I think she wants to be vice president because she's hungry for power and she's extremely competitive, and I think she realizes that she can't win.
But why do you think that she thinks that Biden's going to win, and if she can make or break Biden or Bernie, in which administration do you think that she would have more power?
Well, I used to think that she would be, she was with Bernie. I mean, that's what I used to think. But I mean, everything that she's done in the past week has shown me otherwise.
Well, no, she's trying to win. She's trying to win. But why do you think her second position? Why do you if this is her calculation? Do you think? Let me ask you this. Do you think that she's going to have more latitude and power in a Sanders administration or a Biden administration?
Well, it'd be in Sanders, the way that she used to be. I mean, the way her policy said, it would be closer to Sanders. There's no doubt about that. But I'm just trying to figure this out. And I mean, I've been discussing this for over a year on this show, and I've gotten a lot of negative pushback, and a lot of the people who have said basically that I'm not being enough of a Sanders supporter.
Oh well, but John, screw those people. Those people don't know as much as you. Nobody's been calling this show. You were calling this show 5 years ago. 6 years ago, talking about that what needs to happen with Medicare for All is that the candidate, wherever it is, you were talking in the context of Vermont when Schulman was trying to, that we have to be straight with the American public about taxes going up, but the costs going down. You're in position, you're in second position to no one. in terms of your advocacy for Bernie Sanders. So you don't have to change your position because you're getting pushback from people on Twitter.
Well, my point is that, in the end, perhaps they were right. Perhaps.
But what I'm asking, like,
I never
what
saw
it
this
is
coming.
That she would go after Sanders in the way that she did?
Well, I didn't think that would happen, and I thought that, I just basically thought, these people are just being conspiracy theorists. They don't understand Warren's voting record. They don't understand the alignment. They're just attacking everybody who's against Bernie, and so that was my theory. But I mean, look what she did. I mean,
what did she do?
I'm trying to understand why she's doing this.
The best
besides
explanation
just being a bad move.
Right. I think it's a bad move, but she would have to be the world's. I mean, I think this was. I mean, there's only two answers here. One is there was no plan whatsoever. And she just felt compelled to tell the truth 8 hours after this story broke. I don't think that she leaked this story. It's possible that she was involved in the leaking, but I have a feeling it was probably more like people were willing to go on the record because they were upset about that other document. And they said the truth is off. And I'm sure there's people around Warren who don't want Sanders, want Warren, and maybe they activated these people and said, go tell the truth. And maybe they didn't. There's only two answers. One is, there's some nuance to those two different answers. One is like part of it was planned and part of it wasn't and this and that. But the bottom line is, I think it's safe to assume that at the very least, her response, her statement was a calculation. She could have easily said, I'm not going to reveal what was in a private conversation with Bernie Sanders. Why would I ever do that? End of story. I want to talk about the issues. I want to talk about unity. I mean, it's very easy for her to have done that. So I assume that was deliberate, that she saw this opportunity, or maybe they planned this opportunity, whatever it was. And the opportunity is like, nobody could think that she's going to pick up votes from Sanders at this point on that issue. It's just not going to happen. And it was to create the impression that she is willing to fight for the people against anybody. And why would you do that? It is to convince those people who are supporting Biden or Buttigieg, because even though Warren's their second choice, maybe Warren's sort of their first choice, but they have reservations. It was to address those reservations. They probably have polling that shows something to that effect. We're not sure she's tough enough to go up against Donald Trump. In fact, you were reading a little bit about that the past couple of days in some of the corners of the political reporting. And so she was trying to display that. What better way to display that, right? I mean, how do they do this in every mafia movie? You need to prove that you're with us. Here's a gun, go kill your friend, right? Like, that's what was going on there. The idea that she is a politician who is willing to be vicious, to fight and carry her agenda, is exactly what we want out of people. There's been plenty of those people who have been harassing you on Twitter, John, who have been saying like, Bernie's got to go after her. She's just, like a professional manager class, got to go after her. Like, to get involved in politics on that level of like, Bernie's feelings are hurt, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is that her campaign people, and when I say her campaign, I mean her, but I also mean the staff that she's chosen. They thought this was a good idea. I think it was a mistake, not because it's going to hurt Bernie. I don't think it's hurt Bernie, and I didn't think it was going to hurt Bernie, but because I just don't think it's going to help her, and it basically lights stuff on her campaign on fire, as far as I'm concerned. But
all right,
that doesn't mean that suddenly the intense dislike of Biden and what he stands for is a better path for her to follow down the road. I don't think either one of Biden or Sanders would pick her as VP. Now, maybe she can horse trade with Biden, but why would you go into the Biden administration as VP when you know, like, I'm going to be fighting the White House every day? Maybe that's helpful, but
I mean, she's triangulating. She started to triangulate with Medicare for all. Now she's triangulating, going against Bernie to gain power. I mean, do you agree that right, if let's say it's 45-45 and she represents the other 10%, that she will be the kingmaker? Do you agree with that?
I think if she's in that position, I think she will be, yes.
Okay. And so, I mean, I just think that she figures that Biden will have more support in the South. The odds are with him just because of his support in delegates in the South. I was talking about viability before. I mean, what I'm hoping that her plan is going to fail because she's not going to be able to get delegates. That's what I opened the call with.
Okay, well, she might not get delegates.
Now,
I just think that, I just don't see the evidence that if she's in a position to choose the nominee, all right, I don't know if she will be or not, but if that's the hypothetical, that it makes sense for her to choose Biden.
Well, I mean, I agree on policy. It doesn't make any sense, but yet look what she did. I mean, look what she did. You know, she raised money after having a story leaked, on it. And then she put out this story, 2 years afterwards, which I don't believe a word of what she said. And then she made a statement before the debate. Then she didn't shake Bernie's hands, and now she realizes, I think I screwed up, and let's diffuse this all. And in the meantime, we have all these progressive, I think there were 19 who want to promote unity, which is great. But I mean, the fact is
John, just listen to yourself. Like, how? I mean, it's conceivable that maybe, everything she has done, as a senator, I mean, it's not uncompromised at different points. Of course it has been. Bernie had some compromises too, right? With the NRA and protecting them from liability. I mean, this is what politicians do. But on balance, you're putting all of that work and you're stacking it up against, she didn't shake his hand. And she raised a story about Bernie. And I'm quite convinced she thinks that he said, I don't think a woman has a chance in this environment. And frankly, I don't think that's such an outrageous thing for Bernie to have said at that time, particularly in 2018, particularly specifically about Warren, who had just come off of the whole DNA testing thing. I frankly, I might have said something like that at that point. Not necessarily a woman, but I would have maybe said that to her. I don't know. We don't know what was said in there.
I mean, I'll just say I agree with John that I'm not terribly confident about her making Bernie the nominee if it's down to her at the convention anymore, particularly after this last couple of weeks. I mean, I'm willing for it to happen, and if it happens, I think that's great,
right.
But I don't count on that at all anymore.
Right. The bottom line is though that the idea, nothing else has to happen. I'm not saying you tap on the brakes in terms of your support of Bernie. That's not the point. The point is I think that's getting sidetracked. If there's a lot more to worry about, I think, the idea is get Biden out.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal is to have Bernie win on the first ballot with 1,990 delegates. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, but it's just that, how much of a say will Warren have? And, and maybe they can, mend this, and maybe Warren will come back to Bernie.
Who comes in third? If Warren doesn't get those delegates, who gets them?
I mean, they'll probably be mixed around, but I mean, I think I'm not sure anymore.
Who becomes
who
the?
knows?
Is there a kingmaker if Warren doesn't get them?
Well, I don't think there will be. I think that at that point there'll be so few delegates that you know.
You don't think Buttigieg might be around there?
Biden, no, because he's not going to. Where's he going to get delegates at? The only place he's going to get delegates is in Iowa and maybe in Indiana.
All right.
Because that's the critique I have of Nate Silver's model is that he gives so much credit to others in Buttigieg getting delegates. How are they going to get that 15% threshold? The 15% threshold is everything. And people aren't talking about it enough. They have to hit that. Bernie has to hit 15% in every congressional district in the South. He has to get delegates. He cannot have Biden run away in the South and get every delegate. Or he's doomed. He can't have that happen. So he's got to improve on what the polling says now, and hopefully that will happen through all the momentum that he builds in Iowa and in New Hampshire and in Nevada and in California. But a lot of those states, they're all in March. They're all front-ended by the DNC. And, I agree with you on the term rigging, and I agree with you on that. But, this is a form of putting the DNC putting the thumb on the scale by having all these southern states front-ended.
I agree. And hopefully it's something that the Sanders campaign is aware of. I guess my concern is that if Biden is going to be in the race to the end, and the next biggest pool of Bernie voters are supporting Warren, right? My concern is that this notion of attacking Warren on these bases is going to make it harder for Bernie to get those votes.
Yeah. I think that was her intention. You see it people on The View. You see, there's Nomiki Khan said, there's no left media. You watch MSNBC, you watch CNN, they don't have people on the left.
These
Even
people,
besides you a little bit. But not enough.
We'll see, John. We'll have a better notion of this after Iowa at the very least as to where things are shaking out. Appreciate the call.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
I just think people are just investing a little bit too much into reading this stuff. Maybe, Warren's been doing this all along to set up Biden.
I think that's true, but I also think that if it happens and it looks like she made Biden the nominee over Bernie, it's going to be apocalyptic for this type of reform effort.
It's going to suck. But, if Warren believes, right, that she is the icon for women in this instance, Joe Biden is not the guy you go to for, I don't know, maybe she feels as vice president, she will have resources that will be available to her that wouldn't be available under a Sanders administration if she was like Secretary of Treasury or whatever it is. But I don't know what kind of constituency she's going to have after that. Maybe she doesn't feel like she needs one. I don't know. I just think it's a very weird thing to assume that she thinks she would be better off in a Biden administration. It's not inconceivable to me if she thinks that Bernie's not going to win.
It's a rerun of 2016.
Yeah, it's not inconceivable, but that was just an endorsement. I don't know if Warren's endorsement would have made that much of a difference. Maybe it would have. I don't know. But do we have that tear sheet from the Melissa from Iowa? This is the there was a tweet by a political reporter. This is apropos right now. Well, let me just also let's just talk about this story just briefly about what's going on in Florida with the voting stuff. So the Supreme Court in Florida, as you know, there was a referendum that would re-enfranchise people who had been convicted of a felony and released from prison. It would have given about 1.4 million people the right to vote in Florida. It was passed in 2018. There's been multiple attempts by the Republicans in Florida to inhibit that right. The latest was the state legislature. The Republicans in the state legislature trying to add an amendment to that referendum, essentially, that was passed by Florida voters, that convicted felons have to pay fees and legal costs associated with their convictions. Now, this isn't restitution. This is like the cost to the state to incarcerate them. And the Florida State Supreme Court, which is appointed by the governor, they do it like you need to come from certain districts, I think, in Florida or something to that effect, and then there's some at large. But remember, you had, 2 terms of Governor Lex Luthor there? Rick Scott, who incidentally, just coincidentally to sort of just button this, I think he pled the Fifth Amendment like 53 times in an investigation of his company's historic Medicaid fraud. They ruled that the court ruled that people with felony convictions must pay off all fines and fees, quote, contained in the four corners of the sentencing document before they can vote. Now, it is unclear how much of those documents include fines and fees that were mentioned within the four corners of the sentencing document. Now, that's a limiting principle when they say that. Now, here's Ron DeSantis tweeting out, I'm pleased that the Florida courts confirms that Amendment 4 requires fines, fees, and restitution, I guess restitution is part of it, be paid to victims before their voting rights may be restored. Voting is a privilege that should not be taken lightly, and I am obligated to faithfully implement Amendment 4 as it is defined. A privilege, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a right. And when it's a privilege, because it's a privilege, there is no obligation by the state or anyone else. There's no duty imposed upon them to not infringe upon that right because it's a privilege. It is unclear, though, according to a couple of reporters at the appeal, one of whom, Kira Lerner, the other, Daniel Nikanian, they found that the vast majority of fines and fees aren't included on those documents. Carlos Martinez, the elected public defender in Miami-Dade, told those two reporters from the appeal that he estimates that financial obligations are not listed on the sentencing documents for 90% of people with outstanding fines and fees in the county. So it's conceivable that the vast majority of those people will still have the right to vote. Although it's unclear to me, like, how do you go and register? Is there some type of bureaucracy that says they've paid off their fines and their fees? Like, how does that happen? There's no, that doesn't exist. It's not like they can call a central database or something. It's going to be interesting to see how what goes on there.
Probably a boondoggle of some sort.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens in Florida, but we're talking about 1.4 million people, and that could make a big difference in a race. I mean, that's presuming that they all register to vote. But the idea is let's freeze the efforts to get these people to register. That's what this is about. You have limited resources. You want to freeze the efforts. All right, we were talking about voters. Check out this this tweet. So Matt Pierce, where does he work? He's at
Los Angeles Times.
Los Angeles Times. He writes, hard to overstate how unpredictable talking to voters can be. Melissa from Algona, Iowa, caucused for Bernie in 2016, then voted for a Trump.
I assume it was Donald.
Yeah. She supports Medicare for all, but supports Buttigieg. But will likely vote for Trump again if Buttigieg doesn't win the Democratic nomination.
I can understand why he had a typo in that tweet after listening to this logic.
Now, so why do you think she voted for Bernie in 2016?
Well, she's a bro, obviously.
Well, she hated Clinton, right? I mean, that's clear. There's something about Buttigieg that she likes. Maybe it's a lot of his anti-Washington rhetoric. He's the only person in the race who has not been working in Washington, D.C. I'm just trying to decipher this. And that may be the thing that drives her. Hated Hillary Clinton, but voted for Trump. Hates, still likes Trump, but Buttigieg is, maybe a slight upgrade. He's a nicer version of Trump in her mind.
I imagine if you asked her, the economy would be one of the first things she cites.
Right. Scroll down, though, because... okay, well, then Hayes drops in his thing, but there's another comment I think he had a little bit lower, a little bit below there. Wait, no, where is it? I mean, this is gets to my point. Oh, yeah, here it goes. I got it here. It's not all quite linear, but she likes trade protectionism, hence Trump and potentially Trump times 2, the second time. Thinks Bernie has gotten too old. She likes Buttigieg because she thinks him being gay before government legalized marriage would have been morally formative for him. I don't even know what that means necessarily, that he would necessarily think that like being gay is wrong at that time. It's strange, folks. That's what we live in. Like, people don't see this in ideological lanes like we do. And Hayes's article, we should link to that, this piece. Okay. I think it's like right after like the sneakers. Yeah, boom, I just nailed you. Put Hayes's, we'll link to Hayes's piece where he talks about going door to door, canvassing and finding people with just sort of bizarre reasoning for their votes. And he makes the argument that we like politics, so we follow it. And the idea that like undecided voters are just, they're low information voters is not the case. It's that they don't like politics. And so they spend time, they pay attention, and they know they got to vote, but their cues are different. That what they take their theories are all sort of whack, as it were. And how would you reach Melissa? The only way you could do it, I think, is frankly by like personality and projecting an aura of confidence. Frankly, I mean, that's why I think Bernie is best suited to win.
She needs to see other people supporting Bernie around her before she begins to question this stuff, I think all this stuff is sort of driven by your social circles. So if she starts seeing people around her that are excited for Bernie, she'll consider Bernie again, I think. I
think so. And if she gets the reinforcement, like the idea like that he's too old, it seems to me, can be overcome. Because too old isn't like, it's not just like, it's not an age, it's not like a number necessarily. It's like she's concerned. And that's, it's not a completely, that's not an off the wall concern. But if he's running in a general against Donald Trump and Buttigieg is no longer there, I don't know. We'll see. But she's in Iowa. But these are the type of stuff I think that are, you know, these are the issues. Or non-issues, as it were. Hayes in that piece said he would go to the door and he was trying to elicit, like, what are the issues that people are voting on? And he couldn't get an answer. And then he was like, oh, maybe the problem is issues. Maybe people don't like, so he'd say, like, you know, like, what are your concerns? And he still wouldn't get it. People don't make, there was a guy I used to work with back in, he was my AD when we did Busey, and he did a documentary in the aughts, Red State America. I can't remember exactly what it was. And he went around to talk to people who voted for Bush, and they would complain about the same stuff that, like, you know, they're like, the Walmart comes in here, it destroys the community, and they blah, blah, you know, like they take the jobs and they don't care about us. Well, and then the idea was that the next thing was like, well, why, you know, they pay all this money to the Republicans and you can vote to, and they're like, nah, it doesn't work that way. Like the relationship between politics and their lives is not there. And that's, I think, the strength of, you know, theoretically of what Sanders' campaign is. Hold on. Let's see if this is another. I'm getting so many of these calls these days. Hello?
Hi, this is Frank with Home Automation Pros. How are you doing today?
Oh, this is one of those automated things. Are you a robot?
Yeah, of course I'm a real person. I'm just talking to you.
No, Frank, I didn't.
So there might be a little bit of a...
Frank, I didn't say, are you a real person? I asked if you were a robot.
No.
No, you're not a robot? Frank? Oh, okay. Ah, darn it.
You got a good lure out there.
Right.
You're getting some bites, but
right.
You're trying to reel it in too fast.
I know. I know. You're right.
Snap
You're
the
right.
line.
You're right. I was like, oh, come on. I just hook them too fast. Pulled the hook right out of their mouth. All right. So that's where we're at. Let's go through some of these. Here is Lev Parnas with Rachel Maddow saying that Giuliani was very upset when Ukraine announced an investigation but didn't say the words Biden, because that's what it was all about. We don't even want the investigation. We just want the words Biden's being investigated.
And they announced, but they didn't announce that. See, this was the whole key. They would constantly, every time somebody would meet Zelensky, they would agree, and then they would walk it back. So they announced something about corruption, that he's going to be on the corruption, but that Giuliani blew his lid on that, saying that's not what we discussed. That it wasn't supposed to be corruption announcement. It has to be about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma.
He said the name Biden needs to be spoken, was his insistence.
Always.
Always. There you go. I mean, you know, I don't know how Republicans in the Senate ignore this, except for they just hope that, like, you know, none of our people watch Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, they won't see it.
So that's basically the way this game is played. That is the society we're living in. And the question is, like, you know, how do you break through that stuff? You don't. You don't, right?
Buy Fox News.
That's what Bloomberg should do.
Yeah.
Right? You just go and you buy Fox News.
Or any billionaire that claims to be upset with what's going on.
No kidding. No kidding.
Be my first purchase.
I think it would probably be your second purchase. You'd probably get like one of those tricked out
gaming PC,
car, you know, seats or something like that.
Driving racing wheel.
Yeah, a real life water boat maybe.
Exactly. What's the largest hookah we can get in this apartment? Okay, and then I want to buy Fox. Here is Lev Parnas saying that Republicans are afraid to speak out because of Bill Barr. This is weird.
Because I never thought was doing anything wrong. I'm still, I feel I regret certain things that I did because, like, hurting the ambassador and, because that was not something, but it was part of It's like when you're in a war, you think like casualties and stuff like that. It's bad to say, but it was, and I keep saying it was like, being in a cult. I mean, and when they say organized crime, I don't think Trump is like organized. I think he's like a cult leader. And right now, the scary part, and that's what I keep mentioning, and people don't understand, is there's a lot of Republicans that would go against him. The only reason if you take a look, and you know very well because you've been following, the difference between why Trump is so powerful now, and he wasn't as powerful in 16 and 17. He became that powerful when he got William Barr.
Yeah.
People are scared. Am I scared? Yes. Because I think I'm more scared of our own Justice Department than of these criminals right now. Because, the scariest part is getting locked in some room and being treated as an animal when you did nothing wrong. Or when you're not, and that's the tool they're using. I mean, just because they're trying to scare me into not talking and doing, but with God's help and with my lawyer next to me that I know will go to bat for me no matter what, with the truth, and I'm taking a chance. My wife is scared, my kids are nervous.
There's stuff in this that doesn't track for me. I mean, like, I buy the thing like Bill Barr has empowered Donald Trump. I buy that. He doesn't think he did anything wrong, and he sort of does.
I don't think he's quite thought out his how am I going to rebrand and like be a resistance hero to the left? Because I don't think he wants that.
No, I don't think he wants that. I think there's a lot of different. I don't know that he's lying. I just don't think he's giving all the truth. Like the idea like Trump is a cult leader. This has nothing to do with organized crime, says Lev Parnas.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with organized crime. It has to do more with like a cult leader thing. When I hear stuff like that, where it's like, look at this, it's not about crime. Like, we're surrounded by people who are like Firtash, who is an organized crime figure of some sort, right? According to the U.S. government. This has nothing to do with crime. It has been my contention for a long time that there's stuff that's happening in like the New York FBI office, and they work with like a different U.S. attorney's office, right? That's where Giuliani came from, the Southern District of Manhattan. Who knows? Like, is Parnas like, is he saying that Bill Barr's control of the Southern District of Manhattan's U.S. attorney's office is so complete that they're going to go in there and they're going to do Bill Barr's bidding and there's nobody there who's going to blow the whistle? Or is it, is he doing this? Is the Southern District of Manhattan, remember, like they're going to prosecute him. Are they okay with this? If they are, why are they okay with this? There's a lot of questions around this that are odd. I don't think he's making up a story whole cloth, but I think he's leaving out certain parts and sort of like when you get to the non-factual stuff and he makes his conclusions, right? Like you always got to divide this out. What are the stuff that he's telling you that are like chronological facts that you could put into a timeline? And then what are the assessments he is making that are guiding, conclusions he might want to come from this? I didn't do anything wrong, or I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, or, when you're doing something wrong, I don't know. All this.
It's like a limited hangout where you give part of the story because you're worried the whole thing's going to come out and try to stop the full thing from coming out, maybe. You think that might be going on?
It's hard to imagine that that's not. Or it's like he is doing a limited hangout for himself because he thinks his best opportunity is to go in and get some type of immunity from Congress to testify so that it's a blanket immunity. So any of the other stuff, he felt bad about, like he got caught up in everything and he felt bad about harming Yovanovitch because, you know, she got fired from her job. What? Really, dude? Man, you must have been pretty soft on all the guys you were working with. Like, yeah, Lev, he's a softie.
I know it's we know this to be true, that Republicans can't, you know, face these accusations and like actually have hearings and, you know, it changed their mind regardless of what comes out in the Senate. But it's just shocking that they're not even like paying it lip service. Like they don't have to. They're
It's
completely
amazing
insulated from
that the Republicans can totally ignore this stuff, although Kevin McCarthy can't. Kevin McCarthy, Lev Parnas's lawyer, like 2 weeks ago, tweeted out something. Remember this? He tweeted out a picture of Lev Parnas with his arm around Kevin McCarthy, who is the minority leader in the House. And the attorney said something like, you know, here it comes, McCarthy. And here's Kevin McCarthy talking about why we don't need to hear from Lev Parnas.
Yes, ma'am.
Does Parnas' allegations though put any pressure on to have more witnesses come forward and be part of the Senate trial to determine whether or not they're telling the truth about these things and to put those things to the Senate jurors?
Not at all. You have the transcript of the phone call. That's all you need. You have the phone call. That's what they're based their impeachment on. Even though their managers had decided on impeachment, you have Hakeem, who voted for it 2 years almost to this date, a year before the phone call even took place. You have Adam Schiff, who met with the whistleblower but lied, said he had proof beyond circumstantial. We found that was not to be true. So no, you don't need anything more. They made their case for impeachment. The Senate role now is to judge it. And that's what they'll go through. Yes, ma'am.
He's got to be worried about Lev Parnas. The weird thing is, like, you know, why is Lev Parnas hanging out with Kevin McCarthy? Maybe just because he's a buddy of Donald Trump's, right? Here's McCarthy, Lev Parnas, and Igor.
I love that they're in every photo together. It seems like they're never apart.
Yeah, these guys are buds. Look at it. McCarthy looks like he's completely lost. So let's go down this parade of denying that they know Lev Parnas. Here's Donald Trump. We have Trump's video. Here's Donald Trump. I don't know this guy. There's video of, not only is there like pictures of Trump with Parnas, there's video where Parnas has his arm around Trump as president, introducing him to other people. Parnas is like, in the same way it would be like, walking someone through a party and like, here, Mr. Trump is this. Like, the Secret Service doesn't let total strangers put their arm around the president. I think. Here's Donald Trump. I have no idea who Lev Parnas is.
All about 2020. You just wanted Joe Biden out. What's your response?
Well, I don't know him. I don't know Parnas, other than I guess I had pictures taken, which I do with thousands of people, including people today that I didn't meet, but just met him. I don't know him at all. Don't know what he's about. Don't know where he comes from. Know nothing about him. I can only tell you this thing is a big hoax.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to remind you, he's talking about someone who his defense attorney came and got Donald Trump to sign off and doing a joint defense agreement with. The number of people that Donald Trump has done that with is what, like 4 or 5, maybe? Manafort? 3? Don't know him. Probably should not have got into a joint defense agreement with him.
Let me tell you, this thing is a big hoax. It's a big hoax. We call it, this is the current hoax. We've gone through the Russian witch hunt. We've gone through
Great branding.
A lot of them from
we call it
probably
the current
before
hoax.
I came down the escalator, but certainly since I came down the escalator, you take a look at what's happened. And in the meantime, our country, it doesn't matter what he's trying to probably make a deal for himself. I don't even know who this man is, other than I guess he attended fundraisers, so I take a picture with him. I'm in a room, I take pictures with people, I take thousands and thousands of pictures with people all the time, thousands during the course of a year. And oftentimes I'll be taking a picture with somebody. I'll say, I wonder what newspaper that one's going to appear in. No, I don't know him. What? Perhaps he's a fine man. Perhaps he's not. I know nothing about him. But I can tell you this.
More than just taking pictures with the president. He says
I don't know him. I don't believe I've ever spoken to him.
On the phone with Giuliani, and he said,
I don't believe I've ever spoken to him. I meet thousands of people. I meet thousands and thousands of people as president. I take thousands of pictures. And I do it openly, and I do it gladly.
I do a lot of pictures. And I do joint defense agreements with millions of people. In a way, being president is like a joint defense agreement of everybody. Of everybody. Here is Devin Nunes. This was in December. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the evolution of Devin Nunes in his understanding of who Lev Parnas is. This is Devin Nunes in December, right? After Parnas gets rolled up.
And those phone logs were released.
And the phone logs are released of Devin Nunes and Parnas. Now, this makes me believe like the Democrats knew that the Parnas stuff was going to come out, and they knew what it was, and it was going to be explosive, and this is the way it sort of unfolded. And here's Devin Nunes. I have no idea who this dude is.
Story to be printed.
Did you ever talk to this guy, Les Parnas, or whoever his name is?
Pause it. Okay, now listen, you want to watch this carefully, because they are going to continue to pretend. Now, you know Hannity has met Lev Parnas. Right? There's no chance that he hasn't, right? Like, he's friends with Giuliani, and he's going around, and Hannity likes to think he's a tough guy. You know this guy, Les Parnas? I can't even pronounce this guy's name. P-A-R-N-A-S? What kind of weird name is that? Here we go. Try it again.
To be printed.
Did you ever talk to this guy, Les Parnas, or whoever his name is?
Parnas, whatever.
It's possible, but I haven't gone through all my phone records. I don't really recall that name. I remember the name now because he's been indicted. But why would CNN rely on somebody like this? And I'll go back and check all my records, but it seems very unlikely that I would be taking calls from random people.
So bad.
Like I said, we have a process, standard operating procedure. You call my office, or you call me, or you see me out on the street.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, so now, will you get Devin Nunes on the phone, on his cell phone, please? Because it sounds like he keeps his cell phone number public for people to call him if they have any information on stuff. You call me, you see me on the street, you say stuff. Because it's call records. It's not somebody saw you on the street talking to Les Parnas or whatever that name is, that crazy name. Can't... So here is that same Devin Nunes, where a month and a half later, he's talking to Martha McClellan. Parnas is now starting to sing a little bit, and whoa, Devin Nunes, he finally checked his records.
Very strange.
So, and we also talked back then about the fact that your phone number showed up with calls to him, to Lev Parnas, in a list of data numbers, and you said that you didn't recall speaking with him, or whether it was on your cell phone or your office phone. Have you figured out the answer to any of those questions?
And if you recall, that was brand new when that had come out when I came on your show.
That's right.
I just didn't know the name, this name Parnas.
Mm-hmm.
So what I always like
put in Parnas. She just said the name. She just said Lev Parnas. Parnas. I didn't know this strange name, Parnas.
It's a mountain in Austria.
Parnas. It's been 2 months since I've been introduced to this name, and I still can't pronounce it correctly.
But there are these data numbers and things like that.
Yeah, the data numbers.
Yeah.
All right, let's just go back just a little bit. Instead of watching different things on this visage here, watch Devin Nunes's eyes.
with him, or whether it was on your cell phone or your office phone. Have you figured out the answer to any of those questions?
And if you recall, that was brand new when that had come out when I came on your show.
That's
because
right.
I just didn't know the name, this name Parnas. So what I always like to remind people is we are dealing with people every day. We're an oversight committee. So we have incoming calls that come to my office, to my cell phone, et cetera, et cetera. And then you know now that he had called my cell phone, and I didn't know his name. I didn't remember the name, but I did remember going back, looking at where I was at the time, because you can do that now. You actually know where you physically are. Checked it with my records, and it was very clear.
Wait a second. Wait. His phone tells him where he was physically at the time when he gets these records. What kind of records are those? How deep of a dive did they go? Where was I?
I think I have a theory as to why Devin has such problem with people calling him and things like that. It's because he only responds to a cowbell.
Oh, that's it. It's the cowbell. Here is, keep going, because this is pretty stunning. He's saying that this Parnas somehow got a hold of his cell phones, and I remember it now because I've done the I've been able to geo-position where I was when I got the call, and that rang my memory. I didn't know who he was at the time, and it's normal for me to get calls from Ukrainian operatives and then forget their name, forget the calls ever happened. It's like, I get so many calls on my cell phone as the Intel committee chair about, presumably, what was Lev Parnas calling? Just like, hey, I just want to check in, just say, good job.
And you can tell Nunes just loves that technology has advanced to such a state that it collects all this metadata about your activity, so you can't lie about it.
Right, exactly.
I was at the time, because you can do that now. You actually know where you physically are. Checked it with my records, and it was very clear. I remember that call, which was very odd, random, talking about random things, and I said, great, just talk to my staff, and boom, 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 and which is
so there was no discussion about
the
Ukrainian ambassador. Was there any discussion about the Ukrainian ambassador and the fact that she should be removed in that call?
Well, the first time I remember the name Yovanovitch, the ambassador, was not until this impeachment sham started. You have to remember what I would guess I would be interested at that time, and we still have an ongoing investigation into what the Clinton campaign, specifically Fusion GPS and others, who in Ukraine they were working with and why they were involved in the Russia hoax. And now the Democrats have denied that, but it is very clear that the Democrats were heavily involved in getting Ukrainians to talk about dirt and dig up dirt on Trump campaign officials.
And that is what Rudy Giuliani says he was reaching out to President Zelensky to discuss, and a lot of that has brought us to where we are today.
Now, didn't Nunes at one point say that maybe the call that he got from Parnas was actually from Parnas's wife? Yeah, I got that here. That's with Maria Bartiromo. How would you possibly remember getting a call from somebody's wife, but not the guy? Hi, I'm Lev Parnas's wife. That's the way that I always introduce myself. That is so crazy.
Try to get this Parnas guy, who I've never
a guy.
Were you ever on the phone with him, though? Because there's
I said that.
Phone call.
So what I said I said this yesterday. I went through my records on Friday, and very clearly, I got a call from a number that was Parnas's wife. I remember talking to someone, and I did what I always do, which is that if you don't know who they are, you put them to staff, and you
pause it.
Staff
so wait a second.
Yeah.
So he says back in, when was this? He says on December 8th that he checked it already, and it was from Parnas's wife.
5 days after the first one that we played.
But now he's saying he went back and checked his records again, and because of the geo-positioning of his phone records, he knows it was actually Parnas, not Parnas's wife. Has anybody else talked about this? He's completely lied on video. Keep playing this. I want to
You put them to staff, and you let staff work with that person.
Yeah.
But we also checked. I will even say this: we've checked all of our records. We have no information from Parnas. We have no documents. We have nothing. We have no emails. So there's nothing that we have in our control from Parnas. But you know who's working with Parnas? If Parnas is such a bad guy,
Parnas.
Adam Schiff is the guy working with Parnas.
Whoa! Wow. Why didn't Parnas drop that info on with Rachel Maddow? That Adam Schiff was over there with him. Has anybody mentioned that? That's crazy. Nice work, guys. Yeah. That's really nuts. We should just say, lastly, where do these Republicans get this idea of mispronouncing names? Do we have that clip? Where they go and like they're asked about somebody and Sean Hannity goes, this Les Parnas guy, whatever his name is, or where Nunes like let Parnas. I mean, there must be like one crisis management communicator, which is probably true, who goes around and helps all these Republicans with that. For instance, here's Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh being asked about his best friend's law firm. He is a judge in Washington, D.C. He's asked about a prominent law firm where his best friend works at. And I think he's been working at this point, like, I don't know, a decade when he was asked this question. Watch how much trouble he has with the name. Like, it's such like a foreign thing.
Have you discussed Mueller or his investigation with anyone at Kasowitz, Benson, and Torres, the law firm founded by Mark Kasowitz, President Trump's personal lawyer? Be sure about your answer, sir.
Well, I'm not remembering, but if you have something you want to...
Are you certain you've not had a conversation with anyone at that law firm?
Kasowitz, Benson.
Kasowitz, Benson, and Torres, which is the law firm founded by Mark Kasowitz, who is President Trump's personal lawyer. Have you had any conversation about Robert Mueller or his investigation with anyone at that firm? Yes or no?
Well, is there a person you're talking about?
I'm asking you a very direct question. Okay. Yes or no?
All right. I mean, first off, that's why people thought Kamala Harris was going to be a contender right there, because she. But that whole strategy of like
the Kavanaugh method.
Trying to think of like Watergate. Break in McGovern. What? Unbelievable. Meanwhile, let's just round this out. The one person that Donald Trump has yet to throw under the bus, right? Although Bill Barr, I guess, is still his guy. The one guy, though, you would think is a liability because he goes around drunk, and saying all sorts of stuff, would be Rudy Giuliani. Like, how do you cast off Lev Parnas or whatever, Lev Parnas, and you keep Giuliani with you? Now, remember, people like made a big deal about that when Giuliani joked on TV, like, I've got a lot of stuff on Donald Trump.
I have an insurance policy.
I have an insurance policy that I'm going to mention on public on television. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'm his personal lawyer, but I'm going to joke that I can bribe him, that I can blackmail him, because that's a classic defense attorney bit that you do on television when you're representing the president. Is the old, he's not going to fire me because I have stuff that I am blackmailing him with. And it's a joke. It's a joke. Right? But you start to wonder, maybe that wasn't a joke.
President, Rudy Giuliani wrote a letter to Zelensky requesting a private meeting, and he said it was in his capacity as private counsel to President Donald J. Trump. This was before the inauguration. Did you authorize him to write that letter? And what was your understanding of what the meeting was supposed to be about?
Well, I don't know anything about the letter, but certainly Rudy is one of the great crime fighters in the history of our country. He's certainly probably the best over the last 50 years. He was also the greatest mayor in the history of the city of New York. I think Rudy was truly an outstanding mayor. It's an example. His endorsement of Bloomberg got Bloomberg elected. He wouldn't have even been mayor. But Rudy was the greatest crime fighter, and Rudy is somebody that, frankly, having him on my side was a great honor for me, and it has been a great honor for me. Rudy Giuliani did a phenomenal job over a long period of time in fighting crime. And frankly, he's a very legitimate guy, a very straight shooter. I didn't know about a specific letter, but if he wrote a letter, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Rudy was always it was very important to Rudy that I be a great president, and that's okay with me. It was very important to a lot of people because our country was going to hell.
Look, the way Donald Trump operates is everybody gets in the boat with him, right? Pence, everybody's implicated. Pence is going to go and do something for me. And this is all the test, right? You got to go do this with Zelensky. You're in the boat now. If the boat sinks, you sink with me. Giuliani doesn't work at the White House. It doesn't matter what Trump says to his face. What these guys say to each other's faces doesn't mean anything. You got Giuliani out there saying, I got an insurance plan. And then Parton, who is Giuliani's associate, gets arrested with a one-way ticket to Vienna in his pocket. Really worried about his family. And he starts to go public with all this stuff. And he's got documents that back up a lot of this stuff. Documents that have been in control of prosecutors in the Southern District of Manhattan for months, predating when he got into a joint defense agreement with the President of the United States by the President's own lawyer. So Giuliani has got to be sitting on the outside right now thinking, am I going to get thrown under the bus? And I've got an insurance policy. I know I was joking on television when I said that because that's what all defense attorneys do about their clients. But I've got an insurance policy. Trump, if that is true, knows it. And this is Trump publicly signaling that we're in the same boat together, Rudy. I can't sink you now. So this is all a trust game. I mean, this is going to sound really sad to probably everybody hearing this, but this is Survivor. They're all on the island. Nobody knows who's going to backstab who. And this is Donald Trump signaling to Rudy Giuliani, don't worry, buddy. I'm not going to throw you overboard. Do not release that stuff. Whatever you got, that's your insurance policy. Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything. All right, folks, we're going to have to wrap up here. I don't have time for any more calls. I apologize. I know I'm a bad person. But let's just do one more of these clips. Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a new slogan, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we had about, 75 people on the phone, it appears. I apologize. It wasn't going to happen today. Joe Biden, the New York Times will be announcing its endorsement on Saturday. Anybody want to take a guess? Should we take guesses?
I'm saying Biden.
You go ahead. Or no, it's your show. I should go next. You know what? I'm going to go for the dark horse. I'm going to say Bernie.
I'm going to guess that it's Biden.
Yeah, I wanted to change it up a little bit.
I think it's going to be Biden.
I was also going to guess Biden if I had, if there are things on the line here.
And I'll tell you why I think it's going to be Biden, because the New York Times, they're not going to, obviously, they're going to endorse, they're not going to endorse Donald Trump, obviously, right?
Yeah, they're a counter-revolutionary newspaper.
They're a counter-revolutionary newspaper. They want Joe Biden. He is the obvious choice. And I think Joe Biden basically told them in their interview, and they're putting out clips of the interviews that they did to choose their endorsement. Joe Biden said the the thing that the New York Times needed to hear. And I think it's probably going to end up being his new slogan. Here it is, Joe Biden with the rock-solid case as to why he should be president.
In 2003, in December, Wesley Clark was winning the polls.
Oh, don't get married. Come on, be fair, okay? I've been consistently leading in the polls after taking all the hits. I go down, and everybody who's hit me is out. You all declare me, not you, editorially in a broad sense, declare me dead. And guess what? I ain't dead, and I'm not going to die.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Biden 2020.
I ain't dead, and I'm not going to die. That is basically his strongest argument.
We might, though.
Exactly.
Y'all might.
Everybody else, though. Folks, on Monday, it's Martin Luther King holiday. We will play our compilation of clips from Martin Luther King, about Martin Luther King. It's a good one. If you have kids, play it for them. If you haven't heard it, play it for yourself. I mean, I like to listen to it every year. And
if anybody knows of any speeches that we haven't included,
there is a shocking lack of public speeches by Martin Luther King Jr. that is released, and but we have a good compilation of, I think it's like of not only of one or two of his speeches, but Walter Cronkite announcing his assassination. Do we still have the song? Nina Simone is singing the song, I think, when she finds out about it. I want to give like a sense of like, what is the news? What is the culture? You know, that type of thing. So enjoy that. We will be back live on Tuesday. Not inconceivable that I might hop on YouTube Live or something like that. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you. Have a great long weekend if you have one, and we'll see you Tuesday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in.